going on, YouTube? There's Steve. I'm Dave. We're fancy. This is the Insert Revolution podcast. This is episode Josh Johnson, which has nothing to do, unfortunately, tonight about Josh Johnson, unless they mumble in some acquisitions later on. But tonight, NFL season preview. I have not done much other than a couple of fantasy drafts, so I've got a few nuggets, but I'm hoping later on the NFL czar, the mayor of Mink Street, will join us. We had a schedule change this week, unfortunately, for work. So instead of joining us right away, it might be, I don't know, an hour or so in, which, again, this easily can go for several hours, at least 3 hours and 8 minutes. So we'll talk a little NFL. It will deviate, of course, like we usually do. And it'll be what Carlos likes to call a chill stream. I don't think there's enough news out there. There's enough vlogs and all these other fools and the home ec clothes and schmediums and human stink lines. You want to deal with the speculation. We're going to leave that to them tonight and talk about the NFL. This is very good right out of the gate, Bobby.
Maybe. Check your spelling though.
There we are. We are sponsored by Yingling. So take that,
Finally
Danny.
got some.
Take that, Purple GT, Everett.
Yes, it's now here in Texas, so all y'all can. Everybody else gets to wait. Texas is the first state of the expansion, so suck on it, everybody. And I have a visitor briefly.
Yes, Bobby, we know you are Canadian. Eh? I know I'll have to, at some point soon, probably get got an NFL preview guide somewhere. I got a fantasy guide, but that doesn't do much for actual preview stuff. I know today Ravens signed Le'Veon Bell to their practice squad. I don't know how long that'll last. He's got a worse attitude, it seems, than Antonio Brown. And being on a team where you won't be the number one runner. And Latavius Murray just getting released by New Orleans. I'm hearing thunder in the background too. It's been a weird day for weather up here. As it has been the last few. We've had these pinwheel fronts moving through. So it's like in October. Who needs to retire? Well, Le'Veon Bell, yes, he does. Latavius Murray, no. He's coming off a career year, but I digress, better half.
No, maybe he just needs to go away.
Well, yeah. He had his opportunity and he just squandered it. When you think you're better than the system, that's usually when the tread, whether you've got a lot on the tire or not, falls off. So I'm hoping weather doesn't get wild up here. Just downpours and lots of wind, but who knows?
Well, if it only goes for a couple hours, it only goes for a couple hours. You know what happens. It just kind of depends.
So I'll ask, like we usually do every podcast besides the weather. Check on eBay, anything coming in, anything in the crosshairs?
In the crosshairs, we'll see. It's probably going to go for more.
Here comes the rain. It's pouring.
Than what I would like to pay, but I do have something on the watch list that's kind of high on the want list, so to speak. So we'll see.
fire, the one that's what is it, east of town or southeast, I think it's only grown like another 300 acres, and it was close to 50% contained. I mean, it's been cool, not real windy, but it's been super nice at night, like 45. So low humidity. It not a real chance for the fire to grow. We can, Rick. I've got one PC up there still. Old Oklahoma State cowboy Adarius Bowman, I know, is still toiling up there, and he's a good wide receiver. So and Gino Gaduli for a minute was up there. I did get for my whatever Zion case or lunchbox thing. I did get a card for it. Now watch this. Oh,
We're making moves, fellas. We're making moves.
9.5, Johnny Manziel. So we're starting to get that motor running. But we can talk CFL. We won't have much.
You can talk CFL.
Well, not much. Like I said, it's. I don't even know if I've watched a game in the last 5 years. Like one of the last ones I watched was Ottawa Red Black and maybe an Montreal Alouettes game. And that was, I don't know how many years ago. Like I said, 5, 6, maybe 7. Because I know Yannick had messaged too. He's like, I'm not much into football, but we'll give you guys a listen. Well, you don't have to. We don't know what we're talking about most of the time anyways, so if
Exactly.
if you don't like football, that sort of shows a dedicated fan and a good guy, but we're part of the posse.
Right. No requirement necessary, so to speak. Like you always say, we'll touch on some stuff and some things, and then we may go to things and stuff, and like we always do, as the back of the shirt says, which one is it? You be the judge. Which one? Thank you so much, kiddo. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna say TJ. I'll say TJ because I think she's a Steelers fan.
Yes, that was my guess too, but I figured I'd ask because you know
what happened.
because C was I don't know if she still is, but she liked the Texans, so and
Okay.
JJ was her favorite player. Whether or not he still is or not, I don't know. But yeah. So yeah, it's one thing. That's who we all assumed.
And at some point over the next day or two, I'll have a mail day video. I got a couple decent cards in.
I only got the one that I showed last week. Only the one.
Somewhere Doug Flutie still plays. Brad's earning his commission.
Well, better half. At least you didn't lose it by $1 or 50 cents, because those are always tough. Even though you don't know what the max bid was,
Yep.
It's still you see what it sold for, and it just chaps your you know what when you sit there like, I lost it by $1.
And then if you throw in, like, let's say you're going out, auction ends in 40 minutes, you're like, I'm going to be entertaining. I'm going to be somewhere else. I'm just not going to be able to remember to put the bid in. I'll put my max in, and then that happens. It's like, oh, crap. I wish I would have been looking at it. Maybe I would have had well, man, I want to get that ball. So, yes, that's why Vinny and I get along so well. We can commiserate our auction pains.
Nobody ever said we like chicken salads, Paul.
Yeah, that's Europe and Canada, Paul. So that can be like the Drake meme. I'm just like, I'm not gonna have that. It's chicken sandwich, not chicken salad.
It's not that I wouldn't eat it. I do like salads from time to time. I know that's crazy, eating rabbit food.
Thank you.
But but it is good on occasion. It's got to depends on what you're having with it.
Yeah.
I there's never such a thing, at least for me, to have a salad as my dinner.
Mm-hmm.
If I've grilled a steak and we're having baked potato and mushrooms and stuff, when we have a salad, then it's one thing. But salad is never
the main course.
Yeah, the main course, at least for me. I can't speak for my wife or my kiddo. Sometimes they'll do that, but no, not me.
I've been known to have main courses of. I know it's shocking. I mean, the boards and the floor that warp when I walk on them digress and disagree with that, though.
Not to change the subject to go away from food, but I do have to admit this has a damn good flavor. I was expecting it to be a little stronger, I guess, but it's very refreshing. Like I could go mow the yard and be sweating my what off and drink one of these and actually feel refreshed. I can't sit there and say that with a Coors Light or a Bud Light, but this is quite refreshing.
There's very few of them.
Hello, Thunder. That was interesting.
It's still going.
Oh, Paul corrected himself. Warm chicken salad sandwich. Well, I don't do chicken salad, so
no.
But that's me. I'm not a big condiment person, folks. I like ranch and I like ketchup.
I love mustard. Mustard bologna sandwiches are they're solid.
Depends on the bologna.
Usually it's horrible for you, but like the Oscar Mayer Cotto salami, I can mow through that stuff. Again, my figure dictates how many packages I've eaten of that stuff, but yeah, get some pepper jack cheese of some sort on there, and then mustard or Miracle Whip, no mayo. There's a difference. There's a horrible difference, and mayo I stay away from. Miracle Whip I readily accept as probably my third favorite condiment behind ranch and mustard. Regular Oscar Mayer bologna is not. I don't like it. I mean, it's okay if you're in a pinch, but it's not something I'm going to seek out and oh man, it's on sale like 2 for $5 or 2 for $4 and load up with like 4 or 6 of them. It's like, again,
see,
great for you Canadians.
Oscar Mayer's it's too thick. Now, when I was a kid, I loved bologna sandwiches as a kid, but Oscar Mayer is always the thicker cut. Back when I worked at Subway, and I don't know if they still have it anymore, but they used to have beef bologna.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't overpowering beef bologna. So it was one of those in which it had a good flavor, but it was really thinly sliced. And there were times in which working at Subway, being an assistant manager slash manager, fried bologna is fantastic. I will agree with that. It doesn't matter what kind it is, honestly, because when you fry it, it kind of brings out a different kind of the flavor.
Or fried salami. I've had those sandwiches with Miracle Whip. Oh, fuck. With like a sharp cheddar. That's what I had from my mom made me for my birthday, I think 2 years ago. Poor boy food, and oh, as plain as like green grass, but oh, is it just as good?
But there were times in which I would make myself a foot long bologna sandwich from Subway and nothing else, just a little bit of salt and pepper,
Okay.
and put it in the microwave, warm it up. That was good eating. Because, like I said, it wasn't overpowering. Because the thicker cut bologna is just like it's overpowering almost. But when you're a kid, your taste buds are different and everything else, and it doesn't really bother you, I guess. But yeah. So we went on the topic of food early on. Thanks, Paul, for that.
I'll show something I haven't even told you about. The guy that I got the mirror gold from messaged me or said I'm on Instagram under this name. If you got any more stuff, let me know. And so he messaged me off there, and again, paid too much. I think this is on the cards that'll haunt you. Screenshot or screen grab. Not the Bob Gibson, but the red 9510.
Number to 5, isn't it?
No, this is to 25 this year.
25.
I wish it was 5. This is probably my 5th copy of it. First, I think graded, but yeah, I remember seeing this one. Seller had offered, had like when you watch the stuff, had offered, I don't know, it was like $10 off. I'm like, okay, now we're in the neighborhood. And because I saw that the message on the phone, the little eBay icon, you've got a message from whoever it was. Oh, I'm like, I know that because I looked at who the person selling it was, and go there after reading the message, sold. I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like, that's who else is watching a Josh Johnson card in 2021? Ooh, besides home ec clothes and medium and the human
Josh
thinking.
Josh Johnson.
I don't think his family does anything with the cards, which I'm shocked. That you think for some of these rarer ones there'd be more competition, but there just isn't. So getting that one, what I thought, he had a high price to begin with. That came down a little, and again, it's one of those in which I'm happy to get it in the collection. Just as a card. It's Josh Johnson. Who else wants it? I'm a sucker. I'm going to be pigeonholed into buying it because one isn't enough of him. A lot of other people.
What's the pop?
I haven't even looked. I'm sure
I was just curious.
I'm sure I can put that in my lunch pail of $1 million cards to tote around a card show and act hoity-toity with my Marc Jacobs clutch side purse.
What's going on, Yannick?
And then the last 3 I'll show because I know I've got. When you're gone for 10 days and you don't check your mail. Nice Mark Duper. I don't have many of the
Super Duper.
Yeah, I've got the Super Duper stuff, but I don't have many Mark Duper.
Is that Tiki?
Yep.
that '05 National Treasures?
No, it came out in '06, the first year, and I think this is '07.
Okay, I just knew it wasn't '06.
Yeah, that one's got more of the red isn't there. I don't think it's more of the gold and black. Like it may be a mustard color or like a what is it, the Grey Poupon color. And then this one,
'05 started in exquisite. Sorry, that's why I was like, sometimes I get my stuff confused. Oh, I remember you going after that one. That's big.
and I've got to check too because I don't know because he's got two cards in the set: the Silver Spirals, which is the subset, and then a regular base card. So
I was pretty sure you had the regular base. I don't remember ever seeing that one. So knowing that you were going after that one, for those who are curious, that's the premium red.
yeah, you can see it more of a. It's not just like the refractor. It's tough to pick up on this, but you can see
Yeah.
sort of right there, like in that Silver Spirals. It's almost like the Dufex on there.
But yeah, stated per run at 20 for those who are interested. So
Yeah,
more.
I put that up on one of the insert groups because I was just like, well, I feel like showing a few of these off. And guys, are Collins available? I'm like, not a chance. It's been PT since '95, so that's the only guy collecting. That if you wanted it, it was on eBay, so bid accordingly. But good luck.
It's exactly.
It should probably show much because I don't know if I will continue showing cards, especially this early on. But
Yeah, you don't want to spoil the mail day video either, because then people won't watch.
well, I know one that I won't. But I mean, if I posted on Instagram, which I posted two of them,
Yes, you did.
obviously you want to show the one that there's a sale video. People contributed by buying cards, and you want to see the main card that I was after, and very nervous about the final price because again, the last one went roughly about the same. I mean, it was within $20-ish, $30, somewhere in there. But with the recent uptick of everything else, the hockey isn't going bonkers. There's some stuff ebbing and flowing. I didn't want this to be in the uptick, so I put in a stupid max bid, and it only went whatever $250 or $5, $10, whatever the next bump was for this card at the price point. So that's the 97-98 SPX Force autograph.
It's a beauty, man.
Again, the hologram, I love holograms other than unless you're looking at them in your hand, it is so tough to get a good picture or like show them off. Yeah, I mean, and then on the back, 85 of 100. So
The good old hand number days.
very happy to get that, and the surplus of funds allowed me to get the other card I showed on Instagram, which I had a long soliloquy there, always diverting into the mucky waters of sports card content, and to get it for half the price of that Elite 1 year ago. I've got a lot of people already asking, like, where'd you find that? Where'd you get that? Mind your own business.
976 cards.
I got it from a card shop over in New Jersey. I pulled it out of a Tennessee Volunteers sweatshirt from 1994.
You got Vinny rolling now.
It's horrible. I don't know. We could go up. We might just have an episode. Maybe that'll be like episode 100. How many people can we piss off in one episode?
Oh, jeez. We'd have to bring out the entire crew. We'd have to have, everybody here.
Just go panel by panel. Who do you hate? One at a time. You can bring up somebody, go back to like the full Hollywood squares and just go off on them. Then we can have our notes then. That would be hopefully the most disliked video since one of Justin Bieber's songs when he came out with that. I mean, or Rebecca Black Friday, one of those homemade money grabs there. It's like that's what we need. We need that. And then we can talk about community.
Or lack thereof.
No. There's a lot of community members that are relationships. Bringing the kids into it.
Teaching them how to flip cards. What better way to say greed is good than teach them how to flip cards right off the rip.
Come on, man. What's wrong with that? I mean, come on. Jeez. You act like that's a bad thing, folks. Come on. I digress. I'll leave that alone because I could go off in a tangent really if I wanted to, but I'll save that for another time.
Like I said, episode 100, I'll already put the list down and bam, that'll be right there. And there are, you know what? Better half, we don't sound it. We are. And nothing, we are. And thank you, Joe. How are you doing? What's going on?
What's going on, Sanderson? It's Eric, right?
Yep.
I think I finally remember it now.
Oh, I do. I do better half. I'm sure Vinny, when Vinny's about to break his phone in half after I send him some of these links. That one day, oh my God, I had just bombardment of some of the worst YouTube content ever created. Just when, we chatted the other night, and I said when Trista saw this fucking manila envelope, not just a little one, not like, oh man, here's my Tennessee colored bubble mailer. It's like an 8x10. You can fit an 8x10 or like a photo in there. And I mean, there's a never ending supply. It's not the gobstoppers. It's like hundreds, $100 bills. Where, who's getting murdered? Not that guy. He's murdering the people with knowledge. The mayor of Mink Street.
Hey.
What's up, Brad?
Oh, same old. I was able to get on here tonight. I wasn't sure when I talked to you on Friday if I'd be able to or not, but schedule changed a little bit, and I was able to make it on.
Tell them bills. Lots of bills. Coupons. Special coupons.
Coupons. It's good to see you, Brad.
You too? You too?
Beautiful card that you showed off today, hockey-wise.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that Seth Jones is way better in person than I even thought it was, because I didn't realize it was acetate. So it's even like shinier and nicer in person too.
I was like, that is a slick card. Now I have to go investigate who I might pick up there.
Yeah. That was one of those even better. when I got it in. I'm like, oh man, I would have paid probably twice as much if I'd have known it looked this good. But I got that for $25.
That's a steal.
I was like, hey, even though I'm pissed at him right now that he didn't want to sign a long-term deal and move to Chicago, I still love the guy, and that's just too sick for $25 not to pick up.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he really is. And he's just a good person, too. Like, he's
Yep.
just all around, just good dude. That's why it was so sad to see him go, because it was like...
One of these days.
So, Vinny, did you catch what I was drinking?
Yes, after I got done with work, I had you on the side screen and saw that Yingling has made its way to Texas.
Well, it was in Texas for a few weeks. It just finally made it into my refrigerator.
Potato.
No, it has to be in the refrigerator for me to enjoy it.
No, it has to be in your hand, cold, open.
Okay, smartass. We got random voice in the background with no video. Gotta love it when Dave pulls that.
So the Walmart back in Pennsylvania had a walk-in refrigerator where you just walk in and it's like ice cold in there and the beer is just ready to go, cold. And you just buy it at the Walmart now, which is something new since I left. So
yeah, this has been chilling in the fridge since Monday afternoon. So wanted to make sure it was nice and cold and make its official debut to the IRP since I've been talking about it for a while and knew it was coming to Texas months ago. And yeah, I like it though. It's good. It's nice and refreshing. It's light. It's not overpowering. It's refreshing. So I can see why everybody talks good about it.
Ranted and raved about it, especially at 2012 National, I think, in Baltimore when all the older sect of the YouTubers went up there. And I remember Sicktifer, I think Sevens talking about it nonstop, and I think Scott too.
Scott
was a huge fan.
Yeah, Scott loves it. And I know Chris still drinks it from time to time. Not quite sure how he gets it, but yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I think the beer fairy helps out.
Yes. That's exactly what it is. I talked to him a couple weeks ago when we got on the subject of Yingling. Go figure.
That might cause him to make a road trip down there to buy half a pallet worth.
Come on down, Dave.
I'll pick up everybody as they come down there. Michael,
come on down.
Chris, who else? Not J Style. Josh Stallion, the Packers guy. He's in Iowa. Pick him up. And Motown, is he down there?
I don't know.
Squeepa 21. He's somewhere along the way down to Texas from Minnesota. We can funnel all these people together. And
yeah, but you'd have to make it you'd have to go a little east because you'd have to make a stop in, Michigan and then 62 Chunk, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's in Wisconsin. I think he's actually in Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So you'd have to like rent a freaking bus or something to fit everybody.
It'd be like the Partridge dysfunctional family bus. I mean,
I got a guy that could arrange that. Apparently, the beer fairy might be related to Joey Numbers, so you never know.
I believe they run in the same family. Brad's like, why did I jump on here today?
I just enjoy listening to you guys talk.
So I will say to anybody watching, and if you watch afterwards in the next few days, Brad does have his NFC and AFC previews. I will post-show put them in the descriptor below.
If you remember.
I haven't listened. Well, yeah, that's always that's why I'm saying it, to sort of cover my ass. But I haven't listened yet. That's something I've got on the docket before Thursday, because I'm off Thursday and I'll probably pop it on midday, because it goes for a while. But that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear.
Yeah, I kept it, I think, to an hour between the two. So I thought that was just about right. I was like, you'll watch an NFL preview show on NFL Network for an hour that'll talk about 6 teams on it.
Yeah.
That's what ticks me off. That's why I'm like, I'm going to do something that actually talks about every single team. Like, they literally talk about the same 6 teams over and over and over again.
Yeah, Tampa Bay is the only 6 teams they're talking about, too. So.
Right.
All he needed was a suit and a not 800 number to take his top picks. That's what it felt like. It was a thing from my past.
It was his lead pipe lock of the week.
Exactly. It was fantastic.
All you needed was like the huge gaudy pinky ring and like some sort of bling around your neck, and a toothpick and an accent from maybe out east.
Well, yeah, I'd had to throw in an accent.
New Jersey somewhere, New Jersey. We know some good people out there.
So we got to let Vinny answer this question. There's your answer, Sanderson. Eric, I'm sorry.
Hashtag allegedly.
Yeah. I have no recollection of that event in question.
There's a lot of buffers, to quote The Godfather. There's a lot of buffers.
To the best of my memory, I don't remember.
Correct.
So, Brad, I will allow the floor to be yours, and we'll sort of feed off of, like, I won't even say cliff notes, because, again, I'm going to watch, because, again, I like long videos. I've made that known for I don't know how many years, especially when you see, like, the inner circle of, like, our friends. You'll always hear, well, this is going to be a Dave Archer length video. I hope you're happy. You'll hear that about the 20-minute mark. I'm happy. I'm happy at, like, 15, and then, like, that's bonus. There's your bonus content afterwards. So anything you see, we'll go NFC first, because I like the AFC better.
Okay.
Obviously, because the Chargers and Steve likes
and it's a way better conference in general.
Yeah, by leaps and bounds.
Especially, yes.
Anything that you're seeing as you consume your knowledge from the quote-unquote experts or all these prognosticators that you're heavily disagreeing with, that you're just like, why, what? Oh, hold on now.
Let's see. I would say maybe the 49ers. Why I think they can indeed make the playoffs in the NFC. I do not see like Super Bowl aspirations that people are giving them. I don't get it. So you're either going to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, which you saw how good they had to be last time to get there, like how stacked that team was, right?
Yeah.
And this team's not as good as that team. So you're either going there with him or a rookie quarterback that's had 17 starts in college.
At Division II, basically.
And the best division probably in football, either that or the AFC North. So I don't get it. Yeah, and they have major weaknesses in the secondary. So their front seven is awesome on defense, but that secondary isn't very good. So between those two things, I don't get it. And then who you got to throw to? You got Ayuk, who's good. Deebo Samuel plays half a year, every year. So who else you going to throw to?
You got Kittle, but he was banged up last
year. Right. So, yeah, I don't get the Super Bowl aspirations for them. Playoffs, okay. Super Bowl, no.
Yeah, you're playing in probably, you said, one of the most stacked divisions. I mean, it's Los Angeles Rams, Seattle, and Arizona.
Yep.
This isn't your mom, father's, uncle, and aunt's teams from like the late 80s, 90s, where you had a couple good players and Dave Craig fumbling every other snap. I mean, there's a lot of people in that Kyler Arizona bandwagon too that are not even just from like the card standpoint. It's like that's all you hear is like, oh, adding James Conner is going to be help them greatly, and then I think they got Buck Prater as a kicker, so then you don't have to worry about Schlub Jones missing a 40-yarder, 30 yards to the right, and it's like you're paid to do what? I mean, I can get the equipment manager out there. So getting Prater down there, that helps more than I think people even last year he's a little down. But at the same time, you're just running through kickers down there because you can't figure anyone out and nobody can figure out that turf.
Yep.
So I would sell on the 49ers. Sell now.
Right. Let's see. A team that intrigues me is the Giants.
Okay.
I think that could be a top 10 offense if they can just get mediocre offensive line play. Just mediocrity at the offense. I think that could be one of those teams that you turn on and you find yourself watching them every week just because the game is fun to watch.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they're in a division that they could be competitive in, but I think they're just going to be a fun team to watch, or it's going to be just complete crap show because the offensive line is just so bad that they can't use any of these weapons they do have. But that's another team I think people are going to find. Like, if you're a betting person, I'd be betting the overs in Giants games for sure.
I had one draft yesterday, and I probably should have looked to begin with to see how many quarterbacks I needed. I knew the structure in the ESPN and the way their point system is compared to where they slot the players, it's disproportionate. Yep, Daniel Jones, I won't say a make or break here, but I mean, he's getting to the point where it's shit or get off the pot. I mean, it's time.
Yep.
And I drafted him yesterday because we start two quarterbacks, and I didn't.
Yeah.
It was 4th overall. My brother, who's out in Vegas now, lives out there. And I'm like, I know what he's going to do. He did the same thing last year when I took Lamar Jackson, number 1. I'm like, he's going to take Mahomes right before now this year, or last year after this year before me. And I'm like, so I took Josh Allen. And on the way back, I'm like, I want a quarterback, but I don't need one yet. And he took Aaron Rodgers, which I was like, I'm not going to take him. I don't need him yet. And then looking, I'm like, okay, could have done that, but I took Tyreek Hill to thwart his combo play. But Daniel Jones was there later. I'm like, I'm going to need more quarterbacks. So I think I had Burrow. And then after that, I'm like, it's all speculation because when we get to the AFC, I'll talk. Cincinnati's basically in that same boat as the Giants. That'll be the spoiler because their offense looks like if it clicks, it can be fun. The defense, there's pieces, but you're going to see like a lot of 38-35 games if everything rolls out the way. At least I hope. I like them those games. I want to see a 13-10. Tiki Barber 3 yards, Rondane 2 yards.
I don't mind the 13-10 if it's because the defense is just really that good.
Agreed. If
it's just ineptitude on offense, then no, I don't like them.
No,
but if it truthfully is like, these guys just had great game plans and they just are dominating the other team's offense, then I actually don't mind those. But if it's ineptitude, then those are hard to watch.
The Super Bowl with the Rams and the Patriots a couple years back.
Yeah.
I like that where it's you're hitting hard and just missing on some key plays, and you're thinking, you're like, man, if they would have got that.
Right.
And that's just flying to the ball. So Yeah, if you're just bad out there and you're having the receivers crossing and hitting each other, it's like I don't need to see like the bad news bears out there. That's not fun. But yeah, taking Jones, I was like, he's got people around him. He's got a pretty competent roster of skill players.
Yep.
Can you get
And
the
he
ball?
runs.
Yeah, that's the thing. He uses his legs well. So I'm like, well, I took him and I took Zach Wilson as my other quarterback. Just not a New York fan by any stretch there, but it's like, who's behind Zach Wilson?
Yep. And you can get a lot of junk time. All the yards and touchdowns count the same.
That's what I kept thinking. I'm like, if they're gonna be down, it's gonna be like 41-10. And if I get a 30-yard touchdown with 10 seconds left,
yep.
as good as a 30-yard touchdown to put them up 18-12 or whatever, it don't matter.
Let's see. The other team that I think early in the season might struggle is the Packers. Their offensive line is going to be the worst it's been in probably 10 years, like a long time. Bakhtiari's out for 6 weeks. He's definitely a top 3 left tackle in the game. And they lose Corey Linsley, don't replace him.
Yep.
So they literally have one legit Jenkins on the offensive line, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So now Rodgers will overcome some of that, obviously. But I think they're going to have some struggles early in the year. They're going to be one of those teams better at the end than they are at the beginning, for sure. So early on, I think you could see them go, they lost to them, Don't be surprised if you see that once or twice early in the year, for sure. That'd be the other team I would look for that may not be as good as people think, especially at the start. Now, I think towards the end they will be, but at the start they might struggle a little.
And from the Giants' perspective, isn't Barkley set to come back here fairly soon, too?
Yep. Yeah, it sounds like they're going to put him on it because they play Sunday and then they have to play Thursday. So he's going to be on a pitch count for sure the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, he got hurt, week 1 or 2 last year, so...
Yeah, it's definitely concerning because there's no reason he shouldn't be 100% by now.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definite red flag. That's definite concern because he obviously had setbacks along the way. Something happened.
Yeah.
Because it should not take you a year for that injury in today's medicine to recover. So that's definitely worrisome. But like I said, they got talent, man. I think they're going to be fun to watch for sure.
How do you think that Green Bay line sort of bunches up that NFC North, the old NFC Central or North now, as it's called? Because I mean, there's optimism in Chicago.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, there's optimism there. I'm not saying it's just or not. Probably not a lot of optimism in Detroit. You go from Stafford, who, even with some of his errors, his bonehead plays, he kept him in there. I don't know how Goff is going to do. I don't think he's going to. That's not a real. You get your picks, but that's a move back quarterback wise. And their running situation always just brutal. I mean, I don't think they're ever going to have a running back again. That's sort of like
the thing with the Lions, though. I at least like how they're doing the rebuild. They've started offensive line, defensive line.
Yep, I enjoy that.
So I think they might actually be functional, even though they're not good. Because they brought in Jamal Williams from the Packers, DeAndre Swift, those concussion problems already.
Yeah,
I hope that isn't a problem because you could tell he's got the goods, but you're having that many concussions at age 23. That's a problem. But yeah, I like at least the way they're doing it. They don't have like any skill position players, but at least they're trying to build it from the inside out, kind of like the way things used to be done. So they might actually be more competitive than people think. They might not actually win games. Like that's probably the right record, but they might actually be competitive in those games, not lose by 45,
Yeah, they're at least they're with those picks. They're picking defense. They're picking how Sewell got to them. I don't know. That was the one thing I'd said. I think in our draft preview, was he should be. That's unless you're taking that quarterback who you think, not just because it's the year of whatever quarterbacks you like, because it's you match up your stats like Jets, Geno, Darnold, Sanchez, and now Zach Wilson. That's 12 years of first round picks wasted on quarterbacks, minus Wilson, who you gave up Darnold for a bag of donuts and half a coffee. It's you have to be sure you need tackles. You need an O-line. You need to protect your $50-60 million player. And then as if he gets the second contract, you're $500 million if you're like a Mahomes. You can't have quarterbacks running around like it's electric football, but at least the Lions are like, okay, we're going to be shit for several years. We may as well have been sort of that Anthony Munoz, like, okay, get him right away. You build around him. You do get to the Super Bowl. You get waxed, or you it's close with San Fran, and then you just sort of slide back into the abyss. But at least get these players that can protect the most valuable to the novice public. Those players, because if you don't, if you've got me out there blocking for you, man, I'm taking the paycheck, but I ain't doing nothing.
All right.
So I like what they're doing in that regard, and that's what they've done. Like over the last 8 years or so, they've always went for like a lineman. It seems in the draft in those first couple of rounds, a lot of them hit. The center from Arkansas a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Ragnow's good. Yep.
So you get him and Sewell. So I mean, you're at least building there where the Packers can. They just neglect. We don't need offensive line. I like this nickel cornerback from Louisville. He'll be good. And he's traded, took a pay cut to stay with the Giants. I digress there, but
Modown's question, I would say at wide receiver, Michael Pittman Jr. He's going too late in drafts.
I missed him yesterday by a pick.
You can never have enough running backs, so Tyson Williams will go late for the Ravens. He's a stash guy. Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots is a stash guy. These are guys that might end up getting the job full-time later. And Tony Jones for the Saints. They just released Latavius Murray for a reason. That's because Jones looked better than he did.
And
well, it was $3 million, you know.
He wouldn't take a pay cut. He's like,
yeah. It was we'll keep you around if you take a pay, but we don't really need you. So that's why they. So those are a couple of names that you get late. You never have enough running backs in fantasy because they're going to get hurt. So I'd grab those guys late.
The good part about that draft yesterday, 2 QBs to start, the rest flex plus a D and a kicker. I don't have a single running back on my team.
All right.
I just the quarterback position's too valuable in that league, scoring wise. And if I'd have realized we had to have 2 starters, I would have probably taken Rodgers, or I wouldn't have been Herbert because he was week 7 bye as well with Allen. But I've always gotten burnt on running backs. No matter, I think Zeke in his rookie year was the last time I had a back that actually lived or overdid his draft position instead of everybody getting hurt. Or I mean, I've had Barkley. I think I had him last year. Yes, right away. I've had others that just like Le'Veon Bell a few years ago, and the year before he was great, and then he just petered out. So I tend to stay away from those. And wide receivers, you can just sit there and be like, okay, I like him. I like him. Yeah. I like him. You look for the teams that are going to be down. Okay, I like Calvin Ridley. I like Tyreek Hill. They're going to always be in a shootout.
Yep.
Take those two as my top receivers. Then you go from there. But I'm like thankful didn't have to have a running back. I don't want one. I had him queued up, but enough fantasy talk. Falcons. What do you think of them this year? You lose.
They're going to be brutal, man. I've had to tell the Falcons they're going to be brutal. That team has zero depth. I was counting the other day when I was looking at their depth chart. I think they have like 23 NFL players on it. Like, it's kind of almost reminds me, like, if it did not have Calvin Ridley and Matt Ryan, they'd be the 2019 Dolphins.
Yeah.
You know, where we tried to be bad. The difference is they aren't even trying to be bad.
No.
It was just mismanaged. And now they're doing like a mini rebuild. But they took a tight end in round one, doing a mini rebuild. But I think they're going to be brutal. I really do.
Traded out of that spot, been like your Dolphins, gotten I don't know how many future firsts,
right?
And still gotten, even if you move down,
like you should have, because you should have traded Matt Ryan. Now I realize you were on the hook cap wise for Matt Ryan for 2 years, but that didn't matter. You didn't need the cap space anyways.
Yeah,
you know. So who cares if he's on your cap still?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone would have gave you a first rounder and something for him, a player or another one, you know, like easily. So like Washington before they picked up Fitzpatrick, I'm sure Washington would have gave up 2 first rounders for Matt Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So yeah, they misplayed this trying to win 7 games, which would be like if everything happened great and no one got hurt.
Yep.
That's what they would do. But I think they're going to be rough.
Yeah, and in that division, you're not going to beat Tampa anyway.
Right.
What about thoughts on Devontae? I'm guessing.
Well, he is like the safest one to draft around that point because Rodgers will force feed it. If he comes down with minor injuries, his game isn't built on speed, so it doesn't affect him. So like he gets a minor ankle injury, which happens, minor hamstring injuries. Him and Rodgers have such a connection, and his game isn't built on speed anyways, that he still seems to be able to produce for you, even if he's nicked up. So that's stuff I look at, like when I do like fantasy drafts. Like, guy's not going to be healthy for 17 games, but like if they're average, like Devontae Parker, every time he's got something, you can tell, and he's worthless. Yep. You know, every time he's got a hamstring, which happens every month, you can tell, oh, he's done for 2 weeks. Even if he plays, he's worthless. But Adams often has, you'll find out later in the season, had significant stuff and you didn't notice.
Yeah.
He's safe, is how I would classify that. I don't know if he'll catch 20 touchdowns again. You can't depend on that. But 10, 12, yes.
Who's going to take the over-under on that? Anybody?
I take the over. So I think, and again, I haven't even looked at their schedule, but if they get a lot of that, what do they got this year? They got the West? Yeah, they get the AFC West. So I was hoping the Chargers would come to Minnesota, so I could go down there and watch them lose.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Like, why those teams in that division made the play, like the Bears made the playoffs. They had like the easiest schedule in the league. Mm-hmm. You know, that's why they were able to even be there, even though they weren't any good, and everyone knew they weren't any good. So this year, that division much tougher. So that's why I see a regression from the Packers for sure.
The Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl, if you ask any Cowboys fan.
Yes. Yep. It's always either someone needs to tell Jerry to quit owning the team if it goes after one bad loss, right? And then it's Super Bowl. Right now, it's Super Bowl talk.
Oh, it is every year. Every year to start. It's.
But I put them as probably number 2 in that division. I think Washington's the best team in that division, personally. They're my flavor.
AFC North. That's who NFC North plays.
No, so, so that's 3 losses for most of those teams.
And the Packers again, they finished with Detroit, but before that Minnesota, so that's huge, and they host them in January. I love that. I love Minnesota going there
Yeah,
because,
they always have a game where they play them tough.
and then
Dalvin
before
Cook
that
runs over 'em. Yeah.
you play Cleveland and Baltimore before that.
Oh yeah, so
So, and then I think the Rams were right around Thanksgiving. So that their defense is nothing to sniff at either. So I might not take the over on even the 12 touchdowns unless it's early on. So week 2 they play Detroit, so you might get 12 touchdowns in that game. What about the NFC South? We talked a little about Atlanta. What about New Orleans? They're in a huge shift.
yeah.
From quarterback, they've got a disgruntled out for 6 weeks star receiver. That's 2
Yeah.
years removed from
I
video
always
game year.
I always get concerned when you go a whole off season, and have you heard one good thing that's happened in New Orleans?
Well, not recently.
And there's an AFC team that's the same thing that concerns me. We'll get to. But that worries me. Like when, because everyone's optimistic in the offseason, right? Unless you're like a Texans or Lions fan, maybe, or whatever. You're optimistic. Like you look at there has been nothing positive coming out of there at all. But I think like Winston will be fine. I think they'll just be fine. 8-9, 9-8. They still have some talent on that team. The defense will still be solid, but their Super Bowl chances, they blew those many years in the playoffs, and those are bye-bye now. They'll be happy to make the playoffs. That's what they've switched to. They went from always in the playoffs trying to win a Super Bowl to happy if they make it now.
Carolina, a lot of flipping around there, and you go from Bridgewater, which we'll talk about later, with somebody's favorite team. I don't get where he gets shit on a lot too, because he should still be in New Orleans.
Yeah, I really like the Panther because I love Joe Brady, which after this year he's getting an NFL job.
I thought you were going to say you love Sam Darnold.
No. That's why if Joe Brady can make this, because people forget they had a pretty good offense last year with Teddy. They didn't win a lot of games for various reasons, but they've got Moore and Anderson and one of my favorite rookie wide receivers, Terrace Marshall. I mean, again, the offensive line, that's why I laugh about Sam Darnold, is he didn't really have an offensive line in New York. Then he goes to the Panthers, has weapons. McCaffrey, they're very similar to the Giants, where if they get mediocre line play, that's going to be a very good offense. But outside of the right tackle, So, but I really do like that offensive coordinator. I think he's going to get an NFL job next season, head coaching job, and definitely will if he makes Sam Darnold look good for an entire season.
Don't tell the speculators that Sam Darnold's in for a rough year.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I was like I said, I think he'll be fine. But if you've turned the ball over your entire career from high school to now, what makes you all of a sudden not going to turn the ball over? And that's been always his problem. So I don't know why that would be different.
Because those people don't watch the games. They don't know.
Well, that's true.
It's the
but
basement,
I think he
Dave.
will put up some stats. So, like, if you're a fantasy guy, he'd be like a streaming quarterback for you some weeks. You know what I mean? But, yeah, I actually do. That's another team I think might be very entertaining.
Mm-hmm. What rookies out of the NFC besides whoever you just mentioned? Terrence
Marshall, yeah. I love
Terrence
him. He was the best LSU wide receiver, which, by the way, the Jamar Chase thing, I am looking like a genius so far.
Why not?
Now, the games haven't officially started yet. But I laughed all through camp It was, oh, this guy can't get any separation from the
Yep.
defensive backs. I was like, I've heard this somewhere before. Like, you're surprised? It's like, do these teams not even watch anything? Anyways, so I love Terrace Marshall. Let's see another defensive guy I like. Micah Parsons is the real deal too in Dallas.
Okay.
He's going to be fun to watch. So Cowboys fans will have, similar to when Van Der Esch started and Jalen Smith started, it's like the next great linebacker they're going to have, until they get hurt. But yeah, you can tell he's got the goods. Yeah, he's going to be good.
Any projections for the whole conference for a player that moved and A, will outperform the contract, or B, underperform? And you can even say Sam Darnold again. That will get hate from the influencer groups, but that's okay.
No, they didn't really have to give up anything for it, so that wasn't, it's worth the gamble. Trying to think of signing I hated. Well, I've been very critical of the Adoree Jackson getting like $12 million a year from the Giants. That guy stinks. So I still, to the life of me, can't figure out how that ever happened. So that's definitely got to be number one on the NFC list of guys you sign in free agent, and they're like ecstatic about it. Like, they're pumped. And I'm like, this guy stinks. And he got almost $12 million a year. So I don't see it. That's probably the biggest one.
And in your opinion, coach on the hot seat right out of the gate?
Mike McCarthy.
Well, just because being in Dallas, period. But I would have to say Matt Nagy for the Bears. My theory is he's going to stick with Andy Dalton as long as he physically can.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're probably not going to win anyways, right? So if he says, all right, I'm going to put in Justin Fields and he still loses, then what's he got to say? Like, what is he going to go tell them? You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, I think he's getting fired for sure. I'll be surprised if he even makes it through the year. So he's one of them.
Now on to the AFC, where it's actually competitive football for a good chunk of the teams.
Yeah. There's really only what? Well, there's one awful team. In the
Steelers.
Houston.
That's really the only awful, like, ineptitude team.
Yeah, they're going to be.
Oh yeah, I said they're going to lose the most games by 20 or more.
They're going to be historically bad.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, come on. They got Tyrod. They named Tyrod Taylor as the starting quarterback, man. Come on.
And I feel bad for Lovie Smith. Finally comes back as a defensive coordinator in the NFL, and that's what he gets. Poor guy.
I just
I
don't see them winning. It'd be tough to win a game. They would have to absolutely, like, the Keystone Cops their way into a game, a win. I just don't think there's very little talent. They're constantly reshuffling that offensive line. JJ Watt, I mean, he'll sign his football and then like tear a bicep.
Well, he's in Arizona now.
Well, see, that's what happened. He took the ticket and he went out. He tore his bicep on the way out.
Yeah.
And they traded Shaq Lawson just a few days ago.
Right. Well, that was funny. The Dolphins and them made a trade straight up. It was Shaq Lawson for Benardrick McKinney, and both guys got released before the season.
And I liked McKinney. I liked him a lot in Houston. I thought he was very underrated there.
Yeah, I like that signing too. Now he can't cover anyone, but I was like, we needed a guy who can stop the Patriots running game, basically. That was really the whole reason he was brought in, was to stop the Patriots running game. And when a Landon Roberts came back, who has like the most 4th and 1 stops in the league, problem is he will just shoot through a gap whether the running back's there or not. So if he gets lucky, it looks awesome. Like 2-yard loss in the backfield. But then you're like, dude, the guy's over here. So I was a little surprised about that one.
Like Seo used to do a lot.
Right. So they make the splash wow plays, but on a down-to-down basis, that guy worries the heck out of me.
Who sort of going that I'll try to remember the same nomenclature for the questions.
As long as it's in the mail.
I put it through the phone. Team that people are excited about that you think should be hitting the back of the head with a 2x4 for being excited about them.
I actually think it's the Chargers.
Yes.
They have really heated up talk where I see people are convinced they're winning 10 plus. And
nope.
I get it because you're assuming Herbert's going to be better in his second year than his first, and he was great in his first. So you're like, that's the thought process is what I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
But Keenan Allen's another year older.
Yep.
He's not a spring chicken.
And he usually gets dinged up like Devontae too.
Right. Where he's still functional, good route runner.
He becomes like really like Chris Walsh used to be for the Vikings. Like it's 3rd and 2, he gets a 3-yard pass. He gets 3 yards. That's it. There's no breaking anything off. It's like he'll get a 6 for 38 game with a touchdown. It's like, oh, is this my backup running back playing, or is this an elite receiver? I don't remember.
Now, I love the fact they did get offensive line this offseason.
Yeah.
So finally. 100%. But Austin Eckler is not an every down back.
Not a chance.
He's great receiving back, good guy to have. But as I would say, does New England use James White as the primary back? No, they don't. And what's really behind him that you like? I mean, Larry Roundtree, really. I see a lot of people being on Larry Roundtree, and I'm like, the guy's not any good either. And then on defense, you get Derwin James and Joey Bosa back, but for how long?
Yep.
Right? I mean, when it happens every year, you can't just say, well, this is going to be the year they're all healthy. No. So I look, okay, what's behind them if they would miss 6 games?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that's reasonable. And there's nothing. So they're going to have the same problem, I think, again. So the offense will be even more efficient, should be good, but I'm not really a believer as everyone else is.
They could be, again, like a...
And another thing people don't take into account is there was no fans in the stands last year for all these rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how they handle defense against that. Because you remember the Dolphins and Patriots got after Justin Herbert and he looked lost. Those were the 2 games he looked lost. So it's a copycat league, so we'll see if he's up for it. And you're going to have to deal with crowd noise now. So I think that's an underrated thing no one talks about. Like these rookie quarterbacks had it easy from the standpoint of that. Now they didn't get the full training camps and all that, but from what you got on the field, they actually had it as easy as you can get it.
Yeah, it was basically like a scrimmage. You're just out there, and the noise-wise, I mean.
So, yeah, I don't see Herbert being any better than he was last year. And, and that would be fine. You would be fine with that. If he did the same similar thing, same stats, you would be completely, you're like, okay, we know we have our guy. We'll continue building the roster, But I don't like him as much as
Mike Williams contract year. And who knows?
Right.
That's another guy that can be a world beater or beat the team with drops and bonus plays. You make a move backwards, not signing Henry or re-signing him, and going, I like Jared Cook, but again, he's been around a while. There's that tire you've been peeling out in the parking lot for 20 years. You're going to be down to the rims pretty quick.
So outside of the offensive line, everyone's just assuming everyone that's there is all of a sudden going to be the best of themselves ever.
Yep.
That's what I feel like, and you just can't count on that. You know, if it happens, they get lightning in the, like, it wouldn't shock me if they are in the playoffs, because talent-wise, starters, yes. But again, how are they going to stay healthy? They haven't stayed healthy the whole season. So when that hits, there's just major drop-offs after the starters.
And that is a Chargers fan, a diehard one. Not sitting and gloating all the time that I am a big fan, but when you hear the media, the news media, the popular opinion, when you start getting that it's just like when you put that pot on the oven, the stove. You turn that heat on. At first, it's calm. Then you get some bubbles, some simmers. Then you're boiling. Then that's what I hate, because I know then they're absolutely
the darlings, man.
It's going to be a cartoon. You're going to have Wile E. Coyote on the door. Roadrunner hits a button, beep, beep. The thing opens and everybody goes through. And you'll be 7-10. And I don't even know. I don't think Anthony Lynn's out there. He might be. I don't even remember. Whoever the coach is. Marty Schottenheimer.
They got Staley from the Rams.
So Luke Staley is out there. Don Staley or Deuce Staley, one of the two.
Brandon.
They're out there. I don't know. And if you've got that talent, you've seen there's not a long rope. It used to be you got like 3 years, maybe 2.5 if you were just shitting the bed. Okay, you're done. You're 2-14, 3-10, and you start off 0-8. It's like, okay, Wayne Fonts, see the door, please.
Yep. Yeah, outside of Mike Brown in Cincinnati, if you suck for 2 straight years and it's bad, you're done.
Yeah. I mean, there's no...
Even if you had a perfect excuse for it.
Yeah. Because everybody's in a quick trajectory. They see, well, man, this team turned around in 2 years. Right. Why are we in year 13 of the rebuild? It's like, what's going on here? So that I could see him, if things start bad, especially if you lose Herbert. I don't know if they've got Chase Daniels still, or they signed him. Somebody.
I honestly don't remember.
But I mean,
you don't even want to think about what that's
Taylor. You had Taylor, and look what you did to him. You punctured his lung.
Charlie Whitehurst.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
Yep, Chase Daniel.
Okay, well, functional. Not good, but functional.
Yeah, and he's more of a foot quarterback. He's running. He's
right.
You want him to scramble and throw on the run. Well, again, I can do that and probably do as well as he can. So I'll take that. I'll take that contract. And now the team that you think that sort of under the radar, people are like, I don't know about them, and then they have the chance to surprise.
The Broncos. Broncos have been my team all offseason. I love the Denver Broncos. I actually don't like the fact they started Bridgewater over Locke, though, I'll be honest with you. I thought the Bridgewater thing, you know what you're getting when you start him. That's the plus. You know what you're getting when you start him. But they did lower their ceiling by starting him over Drew Lock.
I agree with that to a degree, but if you look at the preseason, Bridgewater was more consistent.
Yeah.
And that's why they ended up going with Bridgewater over Locke.
Right.
Locke had the bigger plays, more explosive because he's got a stronger arm, but it's one of those in which I think they were looking more from a consistency perspective.
Right. They're banking on having a top 7 defense. Which I actually see where they can.
I think that's absolutely possible. Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. Even with the crap that came out with Chubb,
Right.
he got detained for not appearing in court
Right.
for something piddly. I read the report and I'm thinking, oh crap, what did he do? Okay, who the hell did he beat up? Did he, I'm thinking, okay, this is like going to be major. And then I read what it was for. I'm like, okay, that's not horrible. It's not great, but it's not horrible. And it becomes a distraction, especially since he's coming back, from being out most of last year, though, too. I think Surtain's going to be a freaking beast. I think he is going to be a superstar. And I didn't hate the pick when they picked him. I thought they were going to go quarterback, of course. What's going on, Matt? But it's one of those in which the kid's good.
Yep.
So I'm with you, though. I was surprised that they did lock in Bridgewater to start.
And are you with me? And both of them are playing this year.
Yeah, I honestly,
because of an injury.
Yeah, I had a feeling they were gonna split time. Honestly, I mean, it made the most sense to me, depending on situation and circumstance, because they both look good.
Yeah,
Drew Lock didn't look so hot the last preseason game. I mean, he didn't look as good. He didn't look as clean. Wasn't really up on his decision making on a lot of things. Bridgewater, though, I mean, he was consistent throughout the entire preseason. He didn't make a whole lot of mistakes, but he doesn't have the arm like Locke does. And when you have somebody like a KJ Hamler, who's Tyreek Hill-ish, I mean, you have opportunities for big plays. So I have high hopes for the team, but at the same time, it's one of those in which, I always have high hopes for them, especially when I know what they can do on the defensive side of the football when everybody's healthy. Yep. And what they did in the offseason and, drafting Surtain, I'm like, man, this defense is going to look good. This defense looks good. And as we all know, defense wins championships. It's proven. So.
Yep, I really like them.
Offense has a ton of weapons, too. I've read a lot of stuff, not necessarily in the news media perspective, but a lot of the players on the team are really high on Noah Fant.
Yeah.
Really high on Noah Fant, as in, like, he's top 5 caliber type tight end. And, it's when you're used to having somebody like a Shannon Sharp early on and, what's his butt, who fell apart after he left Denver. I've lost his name now. What the hell was his name? It's when Manning was there.
Julius Thomas.
Thank you. He fell off the face of the earth after he left Denver. But their offensive line looks good this year.
Yeah, it does look improved.
It looks healthy. So I hope they surprise a lot of people. That's what I'm shooting for, honestly, because knowing how the defense played in the preseason, I think they could give Kansas City a run for their money, which is something that they haven't really been able to do as of late. So I'll be interested to see how those games are against Kansas City this year.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take away all your thunder, but as you know, that's my team. So
well, I know that's why I was like, he'll like my answer to this.
It's the one thing I can talk about.
Right. That's why.
I watched all the preseason highlights, so it's one of those in which it made sense, like I said, why they went with Bridgewater. But, there's in the sports book, I think he's the number one quarterback to be benched first. I mean,
don't be surprised if it's almost like a Tua Ryan Fitzpatrick situation where, Teddy Bridgewater can't get the ball down the field this game and the defense clamped on him. And then here comes Drew Lock in the second half to play a different game, or vice versa, Yeah,
because you open the playbook with Lock, just like I said, because of his arm.
Right.
I mean, the kid's got a cannon. It's I don't like his lack of mental toughness. He needs to work on his decision making, and it's one of those in which he needs to put in the time. You know what I mean? He needs to be in there really putting in the time, watching film, watching his opponents, learning, because all your great quarterbacks, they put in the time.
Mm-hmm.
They learn the game. And I don't think he's really put forth the effort, which is why he's not as good as what he could be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
And we skipped over the C check and go back to the AFC West of the 90s. As long as we're sitting in there now. What do you think of Seahawks? Our good friend Russell usually has a mid to late season meltdown, and at the end of the year sort of picks it up, maybe the last couple games. But that's been a thing. That's been a thing that's happened the last 3, 4, 5 years. He starts like a ball of fire, and you're like, oh my God, this is the best quarterback year of all time. And somebody goes over to the light switch and said, no, it's not.
Well, and it's funny, like, as he gets worse in the season, the defense seems to get better. So the record ends up being where it needs to be to make the playoffs. But the Seahawks, they'll probably be in the playoffs in the NFC, but they're not Super Bowl contenders. Corners stink. The offensive line's been a problem for how long?
Yep.
They refuse to address it. So that's why you're going to see the inconsistencies you see, despite how awesome Russell Wilson is. And then what if Metcalf or Lockett get hurt?
Yeah.
So that's why they're just a little thin for me to be Super Bowl contenders. So
yeah, that secondary isn't even.
Yeah, like you have Diggs and Adams as safeties, wonderful. You're set there, but
it's the Legion of Gloom. I still miss my guy Brandon Brown, who went away for how many years? I think he went up to the CFL and plucked him out of nowhere. And I'm like, this is a guy that I've liked for how many years, and he's finally somebody's doing something positive on their field of choice.
And wasn't he like a 6'5" corner?
Oh, he's huge.
He was huge, yes.
He was basically a tight end out there.
Yeah.
Like 6'5", 220, and I'm like, ooh. Okay, we're still in the West. We'll go Kansas City because we'll leave the most interesting team for last, because that's
their offense is going to be awesome. Their secondary, I don't like it. So if you were like, what's going to derail the Chiefs or keep them from going back to the Super Bowl, it'll be because they can't stop people passing. And then Frank Clark's having problems. He has a lot of issues. So is he even going to be there? So then if your front seven's not dominant, then yeah. So, but they're going to score so many points that in the regular season, they're still going to win 12, 13, 14 games. You know what I mean?
If their offensive line stays healthy, though, too, because you saw what that did in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Their offensive line got derailed.
Then they just loaded up with all these high-priced free agents and said, we're going after it. We're not going to let that happen again. But, yeah, but because they did load up on free agents, that's why they couldn't keep, like, Breland at corner and, So, yeah, they just become thinner, which is what's supposed to happen unless you're the Bucks. But they're going to be in the playoffs, but I don't look at them as their definite Super Bowl. Like, I would say they're one of the favorites.
If they're in the NFC, that'd be
then I would. Right.
No chance.
Well, and they take the division again this year. I have no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
It's as much as I have high hopes for Denver, and it'll be interesting to see if Denver plays to the capacity and the capability of the talent that they have on both sides of the ball. That division could be interesting between Kansas City and Denver.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I'm hoping for. But it's all going to be based on who shows up to play and if they play the full 4 quarters too. So you just don't know.
Yep.
Vegas.
It's a shame because they truthfully think they have a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell it is not just something that you have to say when you go into a press conference or to pump up your fan base. You can usually tell he legit thinks Mike Mayock and Gruden think they have built a playoff team. So I don't see it. They got worse because their offensive line's going to be worse.
Look how high they are on that number 1 draft pick that they wasted on that the guy who, should have been a 4th rounder or whatever it was.
Right. So it's like, okay, let's say even if he's decent, you still took a guy too high. But I don't see how. I don't get it. They're going to be now. They'll be close. Like the game, they won't get blown out in games. Just like last year, they were competitive. Like I said, it had a top 10 offense, but often they were always good on offense because they had a top 5 offensive line. They won't have that this year.
Yeah, so, and you gutted it. You gutted it.
Yeah, it was
nothing.
Right.
Right.
So
you just signed these guys a year or two back, and you're like, we're good. Oh, no, we're not. Get rid of them. Our 3rd round picks last year will come into play. You traded one to your team before the start of last season, and Lynn Bowden, and you cut Tanner or Tyler Muse.
Yeah.
Like a couple days ago, it's like you had 3 3rd rounders last year, and that's supposed to be, if nothing else, some just core players that aren't going to get the highlights. It's going to be a special teams gunner. It's going to be somebody that's going to be like a secondary guy that can come in and do some damage.
Now,
and these guys are getting cut before year 2.
And the thing going around social media for Raiders fans now is that they have the best 2019 draft because they have the best stats in all those categories from rookies. But my counterpoint with that, it's not because these rookies are so good. It's because your roster stinks and all these guys are playing all the time. So there's 2 ways to look at it, but there's a reason they have the most total yards and sacks or, well, it's because their roster's not good, so these guys are just playing all the time, not that they're not good. So
the overdraft, and I think we may even touched on that in the draft special. They had the safety from Ohio a couple of years or 3-4 years ago, whatever it was, that took in like the 2nd round, who I don't know, Kite or Mayock didn't have him even in the draft, and the Shade had like a 6th or 7th round grade, and they're picking him in like 50. It's like, and then Chris Carter's, I don't know if that's his kid or his nephew, last year in the 1st round, the cornerback that Conley was no, from Ohio State.
Yeah,
it's like you are constantly. This isn't like a Madden football game where you're like auto drafting through and like, oh man, I like this guy in my draft. I'll take him, whatever. And then just go play the season and do it again. You're not putting any talent out there. That's the thing that they don't have is meshable talent. They had it on that line and that helped them.
Right.
Now you're a whole new crew. Darren Waller comes off a year that nobody even would have prognosticated. You keep taking these receivers and I know Al Davis is making these picks. It's all speed. It's once again, it's just speed.
Well, that's what's funny is what's their most dependable wide receiver? Probably the slow white guy.
Yeah.
Hunter Renfrow. That's what's funny.
You read about, and then you see it in some, again, the influencers talking about that Edwards, like, oh, I hear it's like, okay, have fun, but he might have a game where he catches like 5 for 78 or 85 and a touchdown. But
and they're going to have games like that because eventually someone's got to catch the ball and do something. you know. So yeah, but
And Ruggs and who's the other one? They got another one too. Or is it just Ruggs that they've got as their starter? And because then they cut, what was it, Tyrell Williams?
right, yeah.
You just signed him to a fairly decent contract, and yeah, he was banged up, but it's not the NBA. It's not like, I can move on.
Goes to show you playing a GM on TV is much easier than actually doing
it. I always hope that the Raiders games are fun to watch, but I always hope in the end they lose by like 24. And you see Gruden just pissed off because, I mean, stay home. Why did you think going there? I mean, were you in Vegas, Dave, like in a conference somewhere? Derek Carr, that's the guy. That's the guy I'm going to build my like round 2 legacy on. Let's go to the AFC South. I don't want to go to the North or East yet because that's I think where some more fun will be had. The AFC South. We don't need to talk about Houston. We already glossed over them, and that's enough. That was too much time on
them. Jaguars will be improved. Won't be pushovers. They're not going anywhere this year, but they will be improved, watchable. Okay. Yeah. Lawrence will have a few nice games. They'll be watchable. Like 6 wins, somewhere around there. You know. But it's do you like the offense of Tennessee or the defense of Indianapolis? Which one do you like? Which one do you trust more, I guess? And that's who's going to win that division, basically. But we were talking about, have you heard anything good coming out of Indianapolis all offseason? Nothing but doom and gloom, bad stuff happening. Nothing good. So that's another team. Like I said with the Saints, nothing positive has come out of there.
Well, and again, I say an asterisk. I don't know. The influencers won't. Derrick Henry have a realistic shot at the record, the NFL rushing yards record.
That guy has had more carries than anyone. People forget that guy had like 1,400 carries in high school.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is going to hit a wall at some point, and it's going to be ugly. Now, could he have another year or two? Maybe. But from this point on, I am probably baiting Derrick Henry to use. I think you're going to see it they're going to have to use their backups more this season for sure. They drafted a kid, Darrington Evans, last year. They're going to have to use him this year. They cannot run Derrick Henry into the ground. Against the Texans, yes, he likes to put up 250 yards against the Texans, but in those games, he should have 10 carries max.
Yeah.
There's just no reason. They've really got to start putting him on a pitch count, I think, or he's going to hit a wall hard. But, Tannehill, who would have thought he would have been one of the more steady, dependable guys in the AFC, right? Oh, it's so depressing. But my concern is outside of Brown and Jones and Henry, there isn't really much there. Jones has a history of getting injured. Brown has had ankle problems and stuff in the offseason. So they could be one injury away for having major issues.
Yeah.
Because their defense is very mediocre at best. So,
yeah, losing Jonnu Smith, another.
Yeah, and they
got cleaned up a bit, but still him and Frisker made a good little tandem by the end of the year.
Yep.
So you think he's going to be the guy, and you put your faith in a guy who pretty much had a third of a decent season. That Frisker. I don't know. I wouldn't. But
right.
I'm not in the locker room. I'm not watching all the game footage. And Yeah, I'd go with them over Indy because I just don't know that quarterback situation.
Yeah.
What? I mean, I'm waiting for Jeff George to come back. It's just you don't hear, like you said, anything. It's not like, oh man, Jacob Eason, let's go.
Right. Yeah, the thing is, I don't even think it matters who plays quarterback. I think they have around the same record, regardless. Like because they're either going to play great defense and be able to run the ball, or they're not. The quarterback's it's going to be like the least valuable position in the AFC is the Colts quarterback this season, I think.
I don't. I see. I won't say running away, but I see Tennessee by like 3 or 4 games over Indy or Jacksonville, and again, one of those guys on defense for Indy, Darius Leonard goes down.
Right.
Who they get? Armstead?
Buckner.
Buckner. If
Yeah.
one of them goes down, all of a sudden that's a new defense, and that's not a good new defense. So again, we could say that about any team, but when you have such big core guys that Tom Brady goes down, okay, you've still got position players around him you can sort of help with. I don't even know who their backup is because I think they got rid of. They got Bortles down there.
I don't even remember.
But, I mean, you've got skill players.
Yeah.
And it's not just Joe Nobody, second-year receiver. Yeah. You've got players that are good, proven track records. You can figure it out. Indy can't. It's not like you're picking from the well and, oh, man, here's another third-round pick and defense out of Tempe Community College. And, man, he 158 tackles and 20 sacks. Who? Darius what?
Yep. Yeah, they're kind of like a no-name defense outside of 2 guys, but they do get the job done. So, I mean, if you told me that they won that division, I wouldn't be shocked.
No.
Because that means that Wentz was good, like as good as he could be.
Yeah.
And that means they could run the football again. So,
yeah, if that foot injury isn't something that's going to hamper him the whole year, which it's a foot, it's troublesome enough when you're laying down, but if you've got to be upright and standing, it's going to affect you. One hit and who knows, but if he can stay healthy for like 14 games,
yep,
I think then they have a good chance. Because he's not just a schlub. I know a lot of folks sour on him quickly, but he had the track record at NDSU. This wasn't a wonder.
He's got talent. His was more, I think the physical messed with his mental. The thing that concerns me is it doesn't seem like people like him, like even teammates. You hear, so that worries me a little bit. Because while you don't have to be everyone's best friend as a quarterback in the locker room, you do have to have all the respect that they're willing to, pull it out of the line for you. And I don't know if he has it. That would be my biggest criticism of him. It would not be necessarily how he plays football, but that.
And I don't know if that's his personality, which he'd have to change, because the gourmet foods guy, they went out, him and his 2 children, 2 sons that are, I think, 10 and 7, went out this summer to Fargo for the Carson Wentz charity softball game. And I mean, he was talking to like everybody there and saying hi to like, if you're in his circle, I think that's where he's most comfortable. And I don't think he'll ever be like the glitz, the glamour, the spotlight. He wants to go out, play football, success. He wants the success, but I don't think he wants a lot of the admiration and But with that comes the
Yeah, he
negative.
also doesn't want the blame either. Yeah.
So that's I think
It wouldn't
he's
surprise me if he has burner Twitter accounts. That's all I'm saying.
sheesh. Vinny, anything to add? Because we're gonna head up north.
Yeah, this is all you, Benny. This is your time to shine.
We're gonna get annihilated. This is gonna be a rough year. Rough year. First thing I saw today was TJ's trying to get a long-term contract. That's not working out well
Oh,
because they're not a big guaranteed money kind of team. So he wants the guaranteed, and just not going to get that in Pittsburgh. And we're down Connor. He's gone to Arizona.
mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's ever got to the point where he was able to fully shine because of injury.
Yep.
But in college at Pitt, he was phenomenal. And what the kid went through, absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver, Juju. Juju has his moments. Claypool seems solid as a second-year guy can be. Losing Villanueva hurt here too, because I like Villanueva as a human being. So that kind of really stunk. I don't know how much Big Ben has in the tank. So, but there's moments where you're like, he can play and he's 60 and he can still be out there flinging and taking hits, because that boy took some hits in his career and he kept on rolling. And I'm worried about the offensive line. Is it going to be, what's his name retired, the center? Pouncey, thank you. Yeah. But I can't think of the guy's name that's taking his place.
You can't think of it because they're bad.
No, he's not bad. He's actually pretty good. The better half's waiting for James Harrison to sign a contract. But he's on that, I think he's on that wrestling show now. The Heels that's on Stars or whatever. So he's an actor now. So that's the only way she could see Mr. Harrison. Running back.
BJ Finney?
No, what's the other guy? There's another one. I can't think of his name.
Well, BJ Finney's like the center. At least they've got him marked down.
Okay.
And that would be, I think, the only center, because there's some other guy, and I've never heard of him.
What's his name?
J.C. Hassenauer.
That ain't it. But Mika's still there, so we're good. For once, we have a secondary since Rod Woodson and Ike. We've had flashes of brilliance back there, but never a team that could get it all together. Mm-hmm. But the secondary's been solid the last year, I think. It's going to be offensive line and linebacking core. Where do you get better linebackers? There's droves of them. Some guy falls out, all of a sudden some dude takes his place, and they play solid. So, running game, there's another guy, I forgot his name. The guy we just drafted.
Najee Harris?
Yeah, Najee Harris. I have high hopes for him.
Yep.
So, we'll be competitive. I won't point at the there, and say we got 6 Super Bowls. What do you have? No, I won't, Bob. I won't be that guy because you know them guys. You know those guys all too well, and ladies and everybody. We got 6 Super Bowl rings. That's yesterday. We won another one. Put a team together to get another one.
Yep.
We got to talk about today.
It's worse in Dallas, though. Welcome to the home of the 5 Super Bowls, and your last one was when?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Well, I mean, I lived through Bobby Brister, and I lived through that Neil O'Donnell, and that was heartbreaking. Neil O'Donnell in that Super Bowl, that against Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time. Was that the last time Dallas won the Super Bowl?
Yep.
You beat Neil O'Donnell. Congratulations.
Well,
and
they also beat the Bills twice. Just saying.
That's when they had everyone, though. I mean, that
Yeah.
was the pinnacle of the Dallas team.
Yeah.
That was Jimmy's team.
Yep.
Mhm.
But what games I can get here in the Metro Detroit area, I will watch, and I will look to my mother to update me as the game goes through, or I'll listen on the radio. But it's hard to think about buying the Sunday ticket for just them.
Oh.
Even though I love them. I respect the team. I can't. Hockey package all day long. That no.
And especially with the rising price of it too.
Yeah, it's not cheap. So
Sorry to the Bills fans. No offense.
And
I think the Bills with Josh Allen are 5 times better than the Bills of the 90s. I'm just throwing that out there. And that's when Kelly had weapons and, so on and so forth. But I like the way the Bills are. They're stacked across both sides of the ball, in my opinion. And
Best roster in the league.
It's one of those in which there's always the good possibility they'll make another run this year. I think they have a chance. But, I digress on the Bill talk. I don't dislike the Bills. It's just living in Texas and, dealing with the obnoxious Cowboy fans like I always have for every game I've ever gone to, because I'm always got my Denver gear on because that's the only time I go. And it's just, it annoys the piss out of you when that's the talk and you're going, okay, yeah, and you haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years. Shut up. Just shut up. Until you've won one in the last decade, shut up.
I'd just like to win a playoff game.
Yeah.
21 years. It's count.
And for someone like me who's supposed to hate Cleveland and the Ravens, I was happy to see Cleveland win. Dare I say that? Because I for many years, they just weren't good. And now that they got Baker and they're throwing something together, and I'm not going to praise them as this well-oiled machine, but I like to see them win a little bit. It warms the cockles. And the Ravens got a solid team. They have a decent coach. I think their coach is solid. And even as Myron Cope would say, the Bungles ain't half bad. I mean, this is the most competitive we've been in that group for a long time, because it was basically Steelers. And then it was Steelers Ravens.
Right.
Who was gonna, and now it's Steelers are at the bottom of the four.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not a good place, not a place I want to be, but we're at the point now where we have to start thinking about what's our plan to replace Ben, because Ben was chain lightning. We captured in that Miami of Ohio little bottle, and we brought him there. And there was guys on that team that most people don't know, like Antoine Randall L, who did so much for that team here and there. It started with Cordell Stewart. It brought back the Steelers 70s feel. And we've been on a high for a long time. We have not experienced a low very much. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I'm going to tell you something. 4 teams in that division, you got some competition. Whoever you're playing, they're gonna come at you.
Mhm.
So anybody who we're playing this year, it's going to be a solid game. I don't see us getting killed, but we'll see. And that is my football knowledge for the night.
Yeah, I think anybody can come out of that division this year.
Yeah.
Hell, it could be one in which they had, depending on the rest of the division, so to speak. It's always possible they could have three teams come out of that division,
Mhm.
making the
There's a
postseason.
possibility with the wild card.
Yep.
And it might come down to who beat who. So division games are going to be critical. I mean, if you look at the other groups there, I'm not seeing that. I just don't see where all 4 teams are just going to be bashing each other when they play each other. It's not going to be that pound it, bash it, who comes out less bloody at the end, because that's what you're going to get in that group. You're going to get, as they say, Steelers football, which has changed over the years.
Uh-huh.
But now with
Yeah,
Najee,
yeah, right.
you're not. You might see this year the run come back all of a sudden, and we're a running team again, because we haven't been for a long time. There was a guy named Bettis. I think that's the last time I remember us being a pure driven. The run dictates the game. It's not that like that anymore. In the 70s with Franco, and it was pound the ball with Franco and Rocky, and you go to Stallworth and Swan. It's and beautiful passes that no man should have been able to catch, and they caught it. And now you have a plethora of wide receivers that are faster and stronger than they've ever been. But again, now the defensive backs are stronger and taller and more athletic than they've ever been.
Mhm.
So I've watched the game change since I was a little tyke, and Steelers football has changed, and it'll be another season, and it'll hopefully be a good one, but time shall decide. Only thing bummer is we lost Tunchilkin the other day, which really sucks because he was a staple. Tunch, and we lost Myron many years ago. Now we only have Bill Hillgrove left, who was the announcer for the Steelers on the radio side and for Pitt football games. So he's like been a staple of Pittsburgh forever. So, and we lost Mike Lang, retired. We didn't lose him, but Mike Lang retired as the announcer for the Penguins. So we lost that this year too. So going into this season for hockey and football, hockey, that's another show. But we'll let Steve take care of that one.
I'll be under a rock somewhere.
Have a glass of milk. You'll feel better.
What's wrong with the milk, man? You make it seem like there's an issue because I enjoy drinking milk.
I just like busting your stones over it, dude. I'm just gonna take advantage when I can and just zing it in there.
Hey, I'm the only one who's actually. I'm the only one drinking booze. What are you talking about? Come on.
This is true.
And you're gonna throw a jab at me drinking milk? Really?
Does the body good. I can't argue with you there.
Obviously, so does Yingling.
Just get it over. Say screw you, Vinny, and I'll just turtle shell back down here, and we'll go from there. Continue, gentlemen. Love you, Steve. Thank you. Now my punishment.
Yeah, Cleveland seems to be another obviously super trendy pick. They're, again, Baker, people, I think that'd be, when we ask in a minute, that'd be another one I'd say, like, the players that are just getting hyped out of the water that, let's drop her into neutral. Because I like him. I don't know if I Super Bowl like him. You're going to have that defense stay healthy. Grant Delpit needs to, you're a second round pick. You should have probably been a first, but you were hurt last year. Myles Garrett, all I hear is like defensive player of the year, sack record. I mean, that's literally when Myles Garrett's name is mentioned, that's what you hear.
Mm-hmm.
Could it happen? Who knows? But I don't know. I think they'll be solid. They'll be in shootouts. They might be in some grudge matches. There might be like an 18-15 game along the way. There might be a 19-18 game. The blackjack games. Who gets to 21 first? They win. But I think they'll be in the hunt. Baltimore's. Does Lamar Jackson of 2 years ago come out? Or does the sort of sluggish, struggling at times Lamar Jackson of last year show up? And can you actually have a passing game outside of Mark Andrews?
Yep.
I mean, you got Hollywood Brown, but that's either 3 catches, 40 yards and no touchdowns, or that's a 9-catch, 175 and 2 touchdowns. And those games don't come along very often. It's more the former than the latter. I don't know. With that whole division, that's going to be. Vinny said, Steeler football. It's going to be that old school 70s smash mouth. You're going to have a lot of big scoring games, I think. But I mean, there's going to be just some, and this goes for all divisions too. But I mean, when you think of like hellacious hits, Baltimore is usually the first team you think. Second's probably the Steelers. Third is anybody playing the Bengals. So I mean, you got those 2 teams playing the Bengals 4 total times in the year. And Cleveland, I mean, they've got pieces. They've got your former favorite wide receiver there, who's starting to slow down a little. They've got Beckham, Austin hanging with Mr. Hooper, Chubb, and Kareem Hunt. If they can't do anything the next couple of years, that might be time for a rebuild there. I just don't know.
Here's, I guess, the argument I will make for the Browns. If you took their jerseys off and put them in Patriots uniforms, are they the favorite to win the Super Bowl? The answer is probably yes. But because they are the Browns, I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of it too, it's always, yeah, but they're Cleveland.
To a degree, I like to see, and this sort of dips into that theory, you want to see the upward trend. Yeah, obviously, when you go winless, there's nowhere to go but up.
You're right.
But that's the Browns. They usually find a UFO lands on the field and knocks down the pass at the end of the game.
All right.
A presidential debate breaks out at midfield. I don't know. They find a way. They could fuck up a steel ball. It just. And again,
Right.
it sucks because that's my second team, and I hate having two teams in the same conference. But
Right.
that I loved them with the drive against them. I'm a Kevin Mack, Ernest Biner, Webster Slaughter, Bernie Kosar, Clay Matthews Sr., I think, the linebacker there for a while. I know they had a secondary guy that I enjoyed too, but again, this is Reggie Langhorne. I think, is he secondary or wide receiver? Whatever, he was there. I just like that jersey. I like that Cleveland Stadium. It felt like everybody was on top of everyone, like the old Tiger Stadium. I mean, it was just like you were there. When you went to a game, you actually were feet from basically the field. So I've liked them, and then you get Northcutt and Quincy Morgan, Juan Dawson, Kevin Johnson, Tim Couch, and Josh McCown was there for a while. So I mean, I've liked them, and it's hard to always get excited
Right.
as that not home team, but your team. I've seen too much. The brass ring is right there.
Okay, I think we can move on from Cleveland. We spent enough time on Cleveland. Sorry.
The guy with no video camera.
I did that on purpose.
So yeah, I think so my Cleveland I guess I'm a Cleveland believer, I would say this year, yeah. They're the top 3 of the AFC. Them, Bills, and Chiefs. I'm comfortable in putting them there.
And Cincy, that's a huge wild card. Burrow stays healthy. Jamar Chase learns to run routes and get separation. They've got Higgins. They've got Boyd. So, I mean, there's 2 solid receivers there. And I think if Burrow's healthy for the whole year, him and Higgins, that's a super sneaky fantasy pick. And then just overall numbers-wise where, I mean, people liked Higgins last year, but I think the full year, that they could surprise some people and pull some games out because I know, the safety, they got a safety that's.
Yeah, Jesse Bates. He's like the best safety no one knows about. Yeah.
You get him, you get a little ability from that defense.
Yeah, which they did improve in the offseason. But yeah, my biggest complaint with them is they didn't address the offensive line except for Riley Reef.
Well, that's a very big signing.
Which him combined with 2 other things. Okay, yeah, you brought in a veteran combined, but they didn't combine it with anything. Yeah. So yeah, they're going to have similar problems to what they had last year.
Yeah. So
it's going to cause that inconsistency. Like you played a team like Washington that's just going to get after you. Well, then they can't do anything. It's going to be on his back the whole time.
Where Burrow.
Yeah. Now the good news is you don't play a team like that every week, but in that division, they are going to play a team like that 6 times.
Yeah.
So that would be, I would say that maybe the argument. But I'm with you. Like I think they'll have fun games to watch. I put them similar to the Giants. I think they're not quite as good as the Giants, but they're gonna be entertaining. You're not gonna be like, oh, this is ugly. You're gonna be entertained, but they still may not win a lot of games.
No.
So
I'd sort of rank with not talent-wise or career trajectory, Burrow and Darnold, where a streaming matchup fantasy-wise. If you've got like the one-off, what is it? I don't even know the fantasy service. Like if you got the 1 week, I can pick the players and get the salary cap. Burrow's against like Pittsburgh maybe or the Jets.
Yep.
Okay, I'm looking at that. I mean, if he's against the Broncos in Mile High, it's like, I think I'm going to go Joe Burrow this week. Well, burn your money. Burn your money like you burn cards. That's what you do. Well, Steve, since you didn't want to talk about Cleveland anymore, let's jump to Brad's division of choice. We'll start with the bottom with the Patriots.
There you go, Eric.
So the Patriots have the best offensive line in the division. So they have that. I don't even think it's that close. So they got the best offensive line, running backs that are okay. Behind that offensive line, they will look good.
Mm. You
got Mac Jones, who will be accurate within a 10-yard radius, pinpoint. But they're going to have the similar problem of they're not going to be able to throw the ball down the field, I don't think. So they're not going to get any chunk plays. So I think you're going to see that's going to be their issue is chunk plays.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I told him it's perfect for a rookie quarterback. This situation is perfect to stick a rookie quarterback in. You got a good veteran coach. You got a good offensive line. You got 2 good tight ends. That's pretty much how I would draw up you can start a rookie quarterback. And you'll have a defense that will be competitive, not as good as it was a few years ago, but better than last year's. Them getting guys back. So they should be pretty good. I think this is a division, along with the AFC North, that will have 3 teams that contend for playoff spots. So they're going to be one of them.
What do you think about their receivers, their actual receiving core?
It's there. Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne. Again, these are guys fine to have and you like when they're your 3rd and 4th guys. But when you're in N'Keal Harry, you can tell that guy's done. I'm surprised they haven't just released him. So yeah, that, like I said, that's going to be their problem. Is, can they? If you get a team that controls the running game, are they going to be able to score?
And like you said, Aguilar against Jalen Ramsey.
Oh, right.
Non-existent. So then you have to have like Jacoby Myers or some of these other guys do something that's like, good luck.
So again, McDaniel, he will make a competitive offense. They will be fine. But I think they're in that 9-8 range of a team.
Patriots find a way to find talent on the receiver core and no names in which nobody else is willing to play. So you got to give them credit from that perspective.
They haven't had that in recent years, though. Everybody goes back to Welker, Amendola, Edelman. Yes, that absolutely. Credit where credit's due, as it should be. But they've tried a lot the last 6-8 years. They've drafted some guys in the 1st, 2nd round. Literally every one of them has been a miss. I mean, they're not. Again, if we're going back to like the 2000s and like Deion Branch as well. These are guys that, and then again, R.I.P. David Patton. People that Troy Brown is band renowned. You have these guys back then that they found. They slipped through the cracks. They haven't done that recently. Again, not that I could be missing someone, but there hasn't been. Oh my God, Adam Thielen, how did we not even see his stats at Minnesota State Mankato and at least give him a shot? There hasn't been any of those lately. And I'm glad you brought that up, Steve, because a lot of folks, they look and say, okay, they can pluck that talent. It hasn't been that good. Their draft record the last at least 5 years has been marginal at best.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the guys that are still around that they snuck through the 7th round undrafted, a Matthew Slater, special teams ace. I don't know if he's still there. He retired. I think he might be the last one of that 2000s group that's there besides Belichick. But I mean, those guys, 5th, 7th, UD, FA, they've had picks. They've had multiple early to mid round picks, and a lot of them have fizzled, or they've started hot and really waned the second half of a season, and just sort of vanished into oblivion. But if I'm a Patriots fan, that's what I'm worrying about. Because already with their tight ends, Jonnu and Henry have already been dinged up a bit.
Yep.
You lose them, I don't know. You're trying to put a lot of Mac Jones. You're putting the Patriots name. You're pretty much bridging the gap from Brady to him, even though again last year was Cam and Stidham. I like Josh McDaniels' offensive vision. He's always coming up with something innovative. But when you have a chessboard and you don't have 2 rooks, you don't have 2 bishops, you don't have 2 knights, a king or a queen, all you've got is a bunch of pawns. It's tough. Again, I can eat crow at the end of the year if they go like 12-5. I certainly
Well, the
will.
thing is, they can go 12-5, but it'll still be for the same reason because they led the league in rushing, and the defense returned to a top 5-7 unit. You know, I don't think it's going to be because they were 5th in the league in passing yards.
No.
You know what I mean? So yeah, so like you talked about this Sunday, I actually picked the Patriots in a pick'em thing I did for this Sunday because history says the Patriots beat up on us in New England early, and then we beat up on them late in Miami. That's just the way it worked.
Yep.
But I worry about the weakness of the Dolphins' defense would be stopping the run. That's why I say the whole reason we got Bernard McKinney was to play the Patriots, and then we released him. I'm like, hopefully that don't backfire. But let's be honest, if we would get up 14-0, that game's over.
Yeah.
You know, but vice versa, if we would get down 14-0, that game's over because they're just going to run the ball down our throats the whole game. So, yeah, I actually picked the Patriots to beat the Dolphins week 1. So I actually don't disagree with that. But it's because I don't think we're going to stop the running game the first time around.
Then you go to the fighting Rich Cotites and the New York Jets.
I think they'll be more entertaining to watch on offense. They're just secondary, though. Their corners they might be the worst in the league. So if you have fantasy wide receivers, you play them against the Jets. That's my advice to you. Their safeties are okay. Marcus May's okay. But they don't have a pass rush. So no pass rush, bad corners equals field day for the wide receivers. So, but I think their offense should actually be pretty functional. I like what they're doing on the offensive line. They're getting that gradually better. The left side should be really good. And they finally, Corey Davis, he's a number 2 wide receiver. He's not a number 1 wide receiver, and Denzel Mims and Elijah Moore, who they drafted. So, yeah, I think the offense will be functional and at times fun to watch. Zach Wilson will be the one, like a card market, I think will fluctuate the most because he's going to have the most splash plays and dumb plays. I think he's going to be the guy, the rookie out of all of them that has the 4 interception game and then has the 334 touchdown game. I think he's going to be a lot of that guy. So I think he's going to be like the most fluctuating rookie quarterback.
Is Becton out for the year?
No, he just always has something wrong with him. I think he's supposed to play week 1, but literally every few weeks, it's just stupid. And it's like random stuff. It's not, oh, somebody ran into my knee hurts. It's like, I have a random neck injury I did playing softball with somebody, or I have, like it's just random stuff he keeps having. So, yeah, that's the big concern with him. But I think he's supposed to play week 1. So,
And Steve highlighted for the Patriots. I thought they cut him. I thought they cut Brian Hoyer.
oh, he's the quarterback coach. They run him as the quarterback. That's why I think maybe that's what he's thinking. But I don't want to ever see Brian Hoyer in a game again after last year. Oh my gosh. Remember when he came in? Was it against the Chiefs? There was one he came in, and oh my gosh. It was one of those makeup games, I think, from COVID. It was like played on Monday or Tuesday or something. Oh, that was the ugliest thing I've seen in a while.
Yeah, because that was a bloodbath.
Yeah, because the defense in the first half like played awesome, and Hoyer just kept like throwing interceptions, and it was like the whole point of playing Brian Hoyer was that he wasn't going to turn the ball over. But
Not as bad. It's 26-10, but yeah, I remember.
yeah, it was a competitive game in the first half, but he kept turning it over. Yeah,
It's hard to be competitive the whole game when you have
right.
4, 5 turnovers.
So any projection of where Cam's going to end up since he was cut from New England?
See, this is the whole he's not a backup quarterback. So if he doesn't start, he's worthless. His personality doesn't fit it. I don't think he wants to be it. So it's honestly similar to a Colin Kaepernick just from a football standpoint. When everyone's like, why didn't Colin Kaepernick have a job? It's because he either has to be the starter or he's not on a roster. So I think it's similar. So he may just have to wait for someone to get hurt till he gets a job, which someone will. So that's my kind of thought. He's not backup material. It does take a special person to prepare all week like you're going to play, knowing you never are.
Yeah.
That does take a special person to do that. And he's not one of those.
Former MVP and
right.
all kinds of accolades and his. I don't mind him as a person. I'm not going to say nothing he's done has ever been egregious and
right.
Throw him in the wood chipper feet first. But when you are that desperate for attention after a game, and you think Olmec clothes is the worst dressed person on the planet. You look at Cam Newton when he comes up. I'm literally colorblind. Ray Charles comes in, picks his stuff out to wear, doesn't have any feeling in his hands, so he doesn't know what the material is, and Cam Newton will wear it. I get people have personalities. I get they have certain quirks, nuances, whatever, but literally some of the goofiest stuff I've ever seen that makes no sense to anybody that has 2,150,000 vision. That I think in the locker room, especially if you've got a team, I'd almost liken like if you had a team like the Ravens in the early 2000s, that stuff wouldn't play. Ray Lewis and friends aren't going to be like, oh yeah, look like you're playing dress up with your kid. It's like, we're here for business. You want to do your commercials, you want to do this, that, and the other thing. When you're away from this facility, when you're away from the stadium, do whatever the hell you want within reason, obviously within the barriers of legalities and whatnot. But when you come here, it's not we're here. We want one thing. We want a Super Bowl ring. We want the Lombardi Trophy. Focus on that. The focus shouldn't be on what the hell you're going to wear after the press conference when you go 10 for 23, 120 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles. You didn't earn that. Your MVP from 8 years ago didn't earn that. So I think that's another part. Again, people won't talk about that. You know what? Antonio Brown's a distraction. You get him in a locker room with some veterans. Bruce Arians is there, sort of as like a father figure type guy. You can play with the personality. You can say, okay, you can still celebrate after a touchdown. Do all your stupid, goofy shit. Rein it in every time else. You don't need to fling the ball, and you've got enough veterans around there to rein him in. And he's not wearing, again, Etch-a-Sketch clothes after the game. It's regular shit. So that's something where it's going to have to match up almost with the locker room, the mindset of the coaches, and like the front office, where will he have a chance again in the league? I'm sure somebody somewhere will take a shot. I don't know who. I don't know if it'll even be this year.
What was it? LA Pats had the Ron Rivera re-hookup. Problem is, I don't think Ron Rivera ever liked him very much.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would make sense, you would think, logically, but I just I don't think he ever liked him that much.
No.
Well, I caught something talking about, previous promises about him going back to Carolina. It's like, does that even make sense? You go into the offseason, you pick up Darnold, you do all this other kind of stuff, and that doesn't make sense either, because I agree with you, Brad. It's one of those in which he's not a backup quarterback. He has to be a starter. That's
right.
The only time he becomes a backup quarterback is if he gets benched because he's just sucking ass.
Exactly. Well, like, I love the story because Tom Curran, I don't know if you know him, he's like the Boston beat reporter guy. And he's been calling Mac Jones being the starter for 3 weeks. And he says the moment that did it for him, I guess there was a scrum at a joint practice. And Patriots defenders had to run laps for getting in the scrum. And he ran the laps with them voluntarily. He said right there, I knew Mac Jones was going to be the quarterback of the New England Patriots. Because who does that sound like? Sounds like something Tom Brady would do, right? So right there, and he called it all the way throughout. Everybody was like, this is a quarterback comment. And he kept saying, no, it's not really. Like, Mac Jones looks more accurate. He has the demeanor they like. He's going to be the quarterback week 1, and he was right all along.
Well, they wouldn't have moved up to get him either if they didn't think there was something about him either.
Right.
So, I mean, that says something in itself.
Media, everyone was like, oh, this is probably Cam's job to lose. No, it never was. It was Mac's job to lose, it turned out to be. Yeah. So, yeah, they're going to be fine. I would say ceiling is probably 11. Floor is probably 7. I think that's a reasonable. I think them and the Dolphins are very similar, to be honest with you, in terms of their fluctuation of what they could do.
Yeah.
I think they're different type teams, but in terms of wins, losses, I think they're going to be very similar.
What about Joe's comment here? What do you think Trey Sermon's role will be?
I drafted him in the fantasy league as running back 4, thinking by the end of the year he will be the starting running back for sure. Because Mozart can't play a whole season. He's great when he plays, though. So you start him every time that he's there. But as soon as you see, ankle injury, then he goes on your bench. You can release the guy. and let someone else deal with it once he gets that first injury.
Yeah.
But until then, yeah. So, no, he's going to be legit. And the funny thing is, one of my favorite running backs coming out like a sleeper was Elijah Mitchell, who ended up going to the 49ers, unfortunately. So now he has to have two guys get hurt to even have a shot. But yeah, the Trey Sermon will eventually be that. Yeah, he can throw over 10 yards, absolutely. But the thing is, you watch those games, how many times did he throw over 10 yards in any preseason game? That's just not their offense they're going to be.
No.
It's going to be the late Brady offense when he was there. It's 5 yards here, pass to James White here, 4 yard route to the tight end.
Yeah, the dink and dunk.
Efficiency, and it'll annoy the hell out of you watching it because you're like, why can't I stop this?
Yep.
They're running the same 6 yard routes, but it's pinpoint accuracy and timing, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's what they're going to try to do it again. I don't think you're going to see many more big plays than you did last year, but it's going to be much more efficient, is what the idea is. But yeah, I mean, even in the preseason, did he really throw the ball down the field at all? I don't really remember seeing that.
Well, and that's what they're claiming in Denver with Bridgewater. A lot of dink and dunk.
Oh, yeah. You will
leveraging the receivers.
Right. He'll take 3 shots a game, and you hope you hit on 1 or 2 of them. You know, it's just the way they are. They don't have the massive arm. But
yeah, they utilize their tight ends. Smith and Henry in New England, then
right. It's basically they're doing the exact repeat of 7 years ago or whatever, 10 years, the Hernandez Gronk days. That's what they're trying to do. So we'll see.
Yeah, and if they get like a big play, it probably will be at the end of the game when they've worn down the other offense.
Right.
Yeah, a pitch or something, or a little dunk to James White, and he rips it off for 45 yards because the defense is just slow-footed because they're getting the hell beat out of them.
Right.
Not because James White is outskilling 11 players on defense. He can do that. I mean, not every play, but there's times when he shows off. But yeah, like what that Stevenson, he had that 85-yard run. Again, fourth quarter of a preseason game 2 or 3. So I mean, we're all out there playing D-line. It's like, yeah, there's a garbage can at quarter. So I mean, you can do that, but he showed some speed there, some breakaway speed for a bigger guy. So those will be those big plays. It's not going to be play action after 3 runs in a row and you're going 70 yards to Jacoby Myers. If that happens, I'll burn my tops cards with fire ring because I'm like, that's just not what that offense will be predicated on. So we get to Buffalo.
Buffalo. Team that pisses me off the most. You know why it pisses me off? Had contenders in the late 80s, early 90s. Oh, we got these stacked Buffalo Bill teams. No championship for you, right? Dolphins finally getting better. Oh, now we've got stacked Buffalo Bills teams again after dealing a dynasty with the Patriots. So the Bills are really pissing me off. So, because, yeah, like I said, I've said this before. I think they have the best roster in the NFL, 1-53. I think the only weaknesses is like maybe the running game, which I think they realize, okay, we've got to just commit to it because they have a solid offensive line. So it's not like they can't do it. And they used to do it years previous. But yeah, they did this whole spread out thing and became soft, kind of what happened to the Steelers. Eventually you play that way, you become soft. There's a big difference between run blocking and pass blocking from a mindset. And I think that happened to him a little bit last year, and it cost him in the Chiefs game in the playoffs. And what the Chiefs did to him is they just attacked them. Instead of defending them, they attacked them. And it was a problem because when you're in that spread, there's no one protecting, they choose to blitz 6. So, so they've got to just commit to the run. I think they can do it, though. They've just got to recommit to it. I think they have the offensive line to do it. No. And then they don't really have any weaknesses. That's why I think secondary depth, if they would have injuries, could be a problem. But front seven depth they have, offensive line depth they have, wide receivers galore they have. Even if Josh Allen would get hurt a month, Mitch Trubisky would go at least 2-2, no matter who they're playing. So, So they tick me off more than anyone because they're good now. And yeah.
Tyler Bass, most underrated kicker in the league.
Tyler Bass. A guy named Tyler Bass, I was like, this guy's got to be ass. And he wasn't. And I'm like, come on, even their kicker has to be good too. So yeah, they've been my most frustrating the last 2 seasons because I finally get rid of the Patriots dynasty and then get this. And I'm like, come on. So, but yeah, I really like their team. I do.
And the final team.
So I like our coach. That's good. I haven't had a good head coach since I don't even think Dave Wannstedt was that good. He just looks good because of what we've had. But so it really has been since Don Shula, even Jimmy Johnson. He was great at finding players, but I don't think he was a great head coach, to be honest with you. I think he was just great at finding players, But yeah, we're going to be better at the end than we are at the beginning because it seems to be the way he kind of operates. But I think we've got a lot of good wide receivers, but only 3 of them are going to be healthy every week because they're all made of glass. So that concerns the heck out of me. They have not had one practice this whole entire training camp with all the wide receivers. Not one. So I think that's going to translate to the regular season, which could be a problem. But I like the new offense. They showed it a little bit. We aren't going to have the boring Chan Gailey offense, which really held Tua back too last year, in my opinion, because that was Fitzpatrick's offense. That was not Tua's offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's going to be fine. My concern is not Tua. I'm not going to, if we don't make the playoffs, I don't think it's going to be because of him. It's going to be because our offensive line stinks. Now, we've at least tried to address it with high draft picks, but how much of a jump from year 1 to 2 is there going to be? That's what's going to decide that whole offensive line because there's one veteran on it, and that's it. The rest of them are first and second year guys. So that's a concern. The defense, though, I think as an overall, I think they're the best secondary in the league depth-wise. So it's been a long time. It's been since the Madison days, I could even argue that. Madison Surtain days. So I think I think it even surpasses Baltimore now with depth, and because we have 3 good safeties, 4 good corners. So that's going to be the strength of our team. So by rights, they built the team to play the Bills, with the 4 wide receiver sets, right? So we'll see. But I'm concerned about the stopping the run still. They didn't really address that. But their defense should be legit again. I think it's going to be better, from a yardage per game standpoint, but maybe not from a points per game standpoint because we forced 30 turnovers last year. Are you going to force 30 turnovers again? That's a hard thing to duplicate unless you're like the Steelers. They've been able to do that. But so there might be some – that's why I think they're going to win 10 games again, I think, but be a better team, if that makes sense. But not have more wins. But they're going to be better. That's what I think.
So what rookie in that AFC, both sides of the ball, do you think that's sort of under the radar that'll do more damage than where they were drafted or even if they weren't? Sort of like that James Robinson last year with Jacksonville coming out of nowhere and
Well, oddly enough, the people we made fun of the most in the Raiders probably had my favorite pick, and that was Trevon Moehrig in the second round. I think he was the most ready to play safety there was.
yeah.
So I actually think he will be really good, even though we made fun of the Raiders for 20 minutes. That actually, I would say on defense, it would be him. On offense, I could see Waddle actually having a pretty good year based on the offense they're running. He could have one of those like 85 catches, but only like 900 yards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not, and you think, oh, he's a fast guy, so he's going to have a large, yards per catch. But I think it's going to be a lot of like 6-yard plays, either end arounds or short passes. So I actually think he might end up leading rookies in receptions, not necessarily yards or touchdowns. So I actually think he is going to be a very focal point of the offense, it looks like. And if Devontae Parker and Preston Williams and Albert Wilson are always injured, he's going to have the opportunities to do so.
Well, I'd even go up to your Will Fuller too. He's
Oh gosh, yeah, I didn't even mention him. Yeah, the guy was asked about him. The beat writer that watches all the practices, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can't wait to get Will Fuller back." He goes, "I haven't seen the guy play all off season. He's practiced twice, the whole off season." He says, "So how am I supposed to tell you to get excited about that? He hasn't even been out there." So, and he suspended the first game for PED use from last year, so we won't see him week 1. But yeah, theoretically, that wide receiving core and tight end core should be very good. But I'm just afraid only half of them's ever going to be out there.
yeah. And then LA Pats fan, when we were going through our coaches on the hot seat, we picked Mr. Gruden. But like they said with the contract, that's pretty tough
obviously money's not a concern for these guys in terms of like he'll go broke and you can't afford to pay it out. But
yeah,
it's just, and I think he just likes John Gruden. This is the danger of surrounding people that just that like you and you like them, and and then you get in situations like this where you can't fire them but probably should. But so I don't think he's going to get fired. Let's see. Who would be on the hot seat in the AFC? And I don't even think the Bengals head coach is on the hot seat because Mike Brown refuses to pay 2 coaches at the same time. So he's got 2 years left on his contract. He's not going to pay 2 coaches at the same time. He's cheap. So he should be one, like if you didn't see improvement from the Bengals, but I don't think you're going to see that. So AFC's tough.
Nope. This guy's team. Right there.
The guy who hasn't had a losing season, if he has his first one, he's gone. The funny thing is, it could happen, but
it just depends how everything falls. Because again, you had Juju's nonsense last year, and if everything just goes to shit there, that might be one where you're like, okay, we really appreciate what you've done, but the last few years have been, there's no discipline. When you have Le'Veon Bell just constantly bitching, whining, somebody's got to take him away from the cameras, be in some special room where Jimmy Numbers lays down the rules. So shut the hell up, get out there and play, you do well, you meet your contract. Juju and his dancing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you score a touchdown, either Barry Sanders or Emmitt Smith, or do that, and don't do it after a first down. If you're that excited after a first down, there's something mentally wrong with you. I mean, just get excited, hand the ball to the ref. You don't need to do some Indian rain dance out there and look like the village people YMCAing it. It's just that's where you have to have Tomlin do that, and he hasn't done it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I wouldn't have thought of that, but you're actually right. And he's been there so long where eventually everyone wears out their welcome, right?
Yes.
The only way Tomlin is leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers is to become the mayor of Pittsburgh, which he's talked about several times.
I love
running
Mike
for.
Tomlin, though.
So
It makes me sad when I know we chose Cam Cameron over him.
the better half likes Mr. Tomlin as well. So,
Yeah,
But I guess I actually would say probably Vic Fangio in Denver. If that goes off, he's definitely gone because he has no excuse. So if they're 6-11, he's done. Well, I would say that'd probably be my pick. That goes not like we think it is. He's definitely fired.
Yeah, he's been on my shit list even since last year.
Yeah, I think good defensive coordinator. I don't know that he's head coach material.
Well, your two picks are one went to Chicago and one came from Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mark Davis for the Raiders. He's almost got like Trump's hair where it doesn't look.
He does. Yeah.
It's odd. Yeah, I highly doubt Gruden because that's the guy they like. They like the
Right.
the spotlight guy. That's what they want, attention. That's how they've always been.
Yeah, I think he would just have to be so bad. Like it would have to be, 3-14 type bad to even consider it. Because I mean, it's basically a lifetime contract. I think it was 10 years, but it's basically a lifetime contract. So,
Yeah, other than that, I mean,
yeah, in the AFC, I think people are pretty safe. Honestly, I think there's only a couple.
we'll finish the teams. I know we haven't gone over them yet. And looks like we went up to Las Vegas to watch Morrissey. We have not talked about the Philadelphia Eagles,
Oh yeah.
where they have an interesting.
Oh, it's my favorite social media people are the Eagles fans. Every Sunday, I make sure I look to see what's going on there. Easiest people to troll too.
Cool.
Hilarious.
Yeah, we got several of them in the community too.
Yes, that's what makes it.
Not active. We got I think Bill Campbell.
Yep.
We've got Matt Colley, Herd Fan 87. Big Eagles fan. We got Ed. Mike O. I think he's just sort of I'm there, so I'll pay attention to him.
Yeah, he's more of a Pats fan. Yeah.
That's true. I'm trying to think who else. I know we got more, but I love when they. It's getting to the point of like the Cowboys when there's so much hype for the team and they just fall flat on their face. Nothing makes me happier. I'll borrow Vinny's line and say it warms the cockles of my heart.
what year were they in the Super Bowl in Minnesota?
That was 3-4 years ago now.
Yeah, was it the 18 season?
I was at the Mall of America. I just landed. So I said, why not go to the Mall of America on Super Bowl weekend and see how that'll go? And I just remember they were everywhere. And they were – I would have been happy because my team was in the – but they were just disgruntled. I don't know why, because I'd have been on cloud nine if the Steelers were sitting there going to the Super Bowl, but they just Maroon. It was just like we got to wait in a line. Yeah, there's a lot of people trying to get into this thing. It's
I have found they're some of the most miserable people, man.
I don't want to.
And
I
I'm
won't
not
go there, but
right. But I'm telling you, in terms of of our friends on here, they are the most miserable people. When it comes to their team, I'm not talking like personally.
Yeah.
But just when it involves their team, they're probably the most miserable.
It doesn't help the stereotypical answer when you discuss them. Exactly.
Right. But I think their offensive line, if it can just stay healthy a year, like it did in the Super Bowl year, is very good.
Yes.
But their wide receivers, very skinny and small. Rager, small little guy. Devontae Smith, why I like him, he's literally like a pencil. So, yeah. I don't have high hopes for the Eagles. I think their defensive line ain't as good as it used to be. Like Fletcher Cox isn't what he used to be. Brandon Graham's not what he used to be. So, yeah, I don't really have high hopes for the Eagles. 6-7 wins. Hurts I like as a person, and I like his demeanor. It's like they wanted to go kind of opposite of Carson Wentz from like a leadership standpoint, but I just don't know that he's that good of a quarterback. So, but they are in position to trade for Deshaun Watson next season. So
Yeah.
That's literally what they set it up for. They're going to have the 3 first rounders that they can just give to Houston for him. So maybe you win either way. They either surprise you and make the playoffs and Jalen Hurts is your guy, or Deshaun Watson's coming to Philly.
So there, Clint can have some solace in that.
I do love Kenneth Gainwell, though. Him and Miles Sanders should have a nice tandem. But, yeah, I think they're going to be fine. Like, they're not going to be bad or anything, but, yeah, I don't see them making the playoffs.
No. Unless, again, like, they strike gold with Hurts and
right.
He just has that Madden victory, amazing once-in-a-generation year. Because you don't have Goddard and then Ertz. I don't know how long Ertz will be there.
Yeah.
That's another thing how bad is that going to be? I mean, he's used to being a starter, and all of a sudden he's getting phased out. He's not asking for a trade, but at the same time, you think I won't say owe it to him, but try to accommodate, because obviously you need more players. And if you got Goddard, why would you keep Ertz around with his contract?
But I will say it's probably going to be their best secondary they've had in years. So if you wanted a positive for the Eagles, there you go. Offensive line, and I would say their secondary is better than it's been in a while. Even the Super Bowl year, it wasn't that good.
No.
Remember, they didn't win that because of their secondary. So it was offense and pass rush, right? So
Lane Johnson, he's a huge key to stay healthy, and he just
every year it's something, whether he gets suspended for roids or it's a knee injury or something. But
all his stuff happens like in the first 2 or 3 games, so you can't even get half a year out of him. That's the worst part with him.
Right.
You're paying him that much to basically be 4 to 6 games and maybe throw in a couple others that he plays a half in, and then gets hurt again, gets nicked up, something happens. So,
but their advantage is they do play in the NFC East.
Yeah.
So if they do just stay healthy, they got a shot. So that's your rosy colored glasses look at it.
Don't ever let what happened to Calvin Johnson happen again on any NFL team. When we're talking about, Ertz, don't ever let that happen again, because all that talent that could have went somewhere and could have been beyond belief. The one thing I will say that I enjoyed about Lions football, and it's not much because even though I live here, I'm a passive fan. That guy, watching him play, that was just, I enjoyed every minute of that. Every minute of watching him play. That was the highlight of every Lions game for me when he played. He was just phenomenal. Exactly, Ghost. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I had him 4 years in a row in fantasy because we used to have a keeper system.
Yeah.
I'd draft him and then keep him 3 years after as one of your two keepers. So I kept him and I think Stafford for 2 years, and then I got Rodgers in the draft. So I kept Rodgers and then Johnson. But yeah, watching, because at that point too, they were sort of that middling. Like maybe they'll get a wild card. Maybe they start off like 5-3, and you're a little hope. Yeah, let's go. That finally they're
Because
turning.
they had the 1 year where they had a top 5 defense. It was like random, where it was like, man, this defense is awesome, and it was only 1 year. But yeah, that year that they lose to the Cowboys in the playoffs. I don't even remember. But
Yes, I
yeah.
think it was in Detroit too.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, I've always been semi in the minority about Calvin Johnson. I always thought he was a little overrated. Because if I told you that Torrey Holt, his first 7 years, had more receiving yards than Calvin Johnson, would you believe me?
Yes, because Torrey Holt was good.
But is he talked about like Calvin Johnson?
No. Frank Gore is another guy.
Yep.
I mean, Nolan could talk us to blue in the face about the talent of Frank Gore, and nobody pays attention, and he was good.
But yeah, with Calvin, it was the size and speed. It was the spectacle of it, not so much of what he had. Because he played with a great quarterback. It wasn't like he played with a bad quarterback. No, his team wasn't good. But yeah, I always actually found him slightly overrated. Like, I did not have him as a definite Hall of Famer.
To me, it's like
I don't have a problem with it, but
the Arizona wide receiver that retired, it just poof out of my head.
Oh, Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald. I kept on hearing Fitzpatrick all night. And that's all that was in my head. But when he played for Pitt, I said, this guy's just going to be.
Oh yeah, I always.
He's going to be phenomenal, and it's.
I think he would have been better if he played somewhere else.
I agree with you there. I think if he would have played somewhere else.
Yeah, it almost works twofold. Kind of with Calvin Johnson. The fact that they played for average to poor franchises almost made you appreciate them more, though.
This is true.
You know what I mean? It made him more lovable. Now, Fitzgerald, just a lovable dude, period. But
good person, just a good human.
Yeah, in a way, I think from a like the way you look at him, it's almost because you have that bit of sympathy for them that they may even be raised up even more because you have that sympathy for him.
It's like when the Steelers beat him in the Super Bowl. It was. I mean, I wanted the Steelers to win, of course, but I hated to see him not get a championship because there's some people that just deserve it.
Yep, 100% with you.
I was rooting for Arizona. I'm going to go and say it.
Well, most people.
And it's because of Fitzpatrick. I mean, that was the whole reason.
Yeah. Who was there?
Fitzgerald, not Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knew what I meant, but I wanted to clarify.
Kurt Warner was their quarterback too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And how could you root against that guy?
Right.
That guy's just,
I heard there's a movie coming out from him, like a legit, like not like a documentary, but an actual movie about his life and stuff coming out this fall or beginning of next year.
I'd watch it.
Yeah, I got to figure out what the name of it is and pass it. But I heard that was like a thing, like it's already been approved and already been working on a movie about Kurt Warner's life. So
it's like the Boston. What was I was enthralled with Boston Celtics, Lakers, the Bird Magic years from the 70s into the 80s. I couldn't stop watching it. My wife's like, "What are you watching?" I said, "Celtics and Lakers story." She's like, "Really?" And then there was one with Penny and Shaq, how they got drafted, both number ones.
Mm-hmm.
And, movies about sports, and documentaries. Just
Oh yeah, it's going to
I'm
be
a
called
sucker
the
for it.
American Underdog. It's supposed to come out Christmas.
That'll be good.
So yeah, that should be. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a must watch. So again, another just good person. So
I'll be very, very critical of when he was playing for the Barnstormers and he had a job. I'll be very critical of how they portray that job. Very critical.
right.
So if there's anything else I know besides collecting mediocre players for an abnormally long amount of time, it's the grocery business. So. So, Brad, anything else?
No. You guys feel strongly about an MVP winner? I didn't really have a strong conviction of anyone.
Yeah, there's not like, oh my God, this guy's off.
Because obviously they will always lean to the newer person that kind of comes out of nowhere if it's close.
Yep.
So like Dak Prescott coming off an injury, if it's close statistical wise, he's going to win it. You know what I mean? Like Patrick Mahomes has to be so perfect to win it.
Well, yeah, he's got to be
like, you know what I mean?
Yards
where they can't help but give it to him, right? So yeah, I was thinking of that earlier, and I'm like, I don't really have a definite like, this guy's gonna win it.
No, I'd lean Josh Allen because he can fling it and he can run. I know Lamar Jackson can too, but Allen's sneaky on the ground. Watched a couple games last year, and it's just like, man, when he breaks off like a 30-yard run, it's like, huh, this is interesting.
Yep.
It's like the race to get the newest MP3 player in 2002 on Black Friday. I mean, you don't expect him to be the first in line, and there he is. So I'd say he'd be one. Or it's going to be like Derrick Henry. If he trends like the last few years and doesn't pull like Jamal Anderson and completely just washes away with the tides.
All right.
Because of those carries, those aforementioned carries, you can't have 10,000 carries on a body, especially that big. That's like the old Eddie George syndrome. You're a big dude and you have an upright running style. You're not
right. That's the thing is he takes hits.
You're not taking, okay, my shoulders are going to be banged. Your midsection's going to be just like pelted.
Yep.
Because you run straight up. But he'd be another one. If Russell Wilson could ever sort of wash away the middle of the year blues and at least play like maybe 500 ball, that would be one. Got to make the influencers happy. Kyler Murray, maybe. Who knows there? Again, it just it's going to depend on how everything plays out. And yeah, MVP, that's where you go to Vegas and you're like, Ed, throw $10 on this dude. That's
yeah.
5,000 chance.
Yep.
The one that I had to go back and find it, and they had one guy had Patrick Mahomes, one guy had Tom Brady, the third guy had Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
And I thought that's an interesting MVP pick.
Yep.
Can he have
that would be like a guy I would bet
season?
for sure.
Yeah. And then their picks for champs were Kansas City over Chicago Bears. I'm like, how is Chicago?
I was gonna say maybe I'm missing something, but I don't like the roster very much at all.
Then Tennessee Titans over the Bucks, which I was like, I don't see that either. And then here's one for Dave: the Cleveland Browns over the LA Chargers. Now I don't know if these were.
How could that be?
Yeah. What?
Maybe they
Super
met
Bowl
Rams.
match. Super Bowl. Yeah, maybe that is the Rams. Who's in LA now? The Rams.
Well,
Both of
yeah,
them.
they both are. It's possible they just wrote it down wrong. It's probably Rams.
What's the L? Oh, that's the Rams.
Okay.
That's the Rams.
All right.
I got
That's
confused by the symbol.
All right.
That's probably the guy that voted for Stafford as the MVP.
Yes. So he
Yeah,
picked
that's
Cleveland over.
Yeah, like in my fantasy draft, I'm always the last one to draft a quarterback because we just play one quarterback league. But every year I'm the last guy to draft one. I got Matthew Stafford this year, and I'm thrilled with it. Last year I had Big Ben. Everyone's like old, washed up, finished the number 7 quarterback.
Ben will get you some yards.
Oh yeah, and he's my backup. So no one wants the old white guys that don't move.
no.
It's funny. No one wants them, not realizing they're still probably going to finish ahead of your guy, and
Yep.
there's less variance. Like each week, I know I'm getting X out of this guy most likely. You know,
When did
Whereas the one
Marino?
guys are-
When did Marino set the most touchdown passes in a single season?
that was 84.
Okay, what year did he come close to hitting it again in the 90s?
Because he had a 44, I think.
That's the season I had him as my quarterback. That's the
Yeah.
last time this guy played fantasy football. I leave that to the better half, and the better half, she's a beast. Not last year. Last year was just a debacle. She had an odd pick space, and it was just everything fell apart. But the year before, we planned it for weeks. She's like, I had charts and graphs, and I had data, and I was like, she's like, we're really gonna pick him. I'm like, yes, pick him. He will do well. And I let her pick. She picked everybody, but I had lists. So as the draft went on, I was crossing people off a whiteboard. It was all technical, and she won. She picked everyone off the board we discussed, and she had the ultimate decision of who to pick. Last year, she had some kind of softball thing, and she entrusted me to do it.
Oh,
Well, guess what? We had the same whiteboard, but picking 7th versus 1st is a rough position to be in.
yeah, that middle of the draft. I'd rather be at the front end or the back end. One of the two. Just give me Bam Bam, or I gotta wait, then a couple more. Just do it that way instead of, okay, I sort of can breathe. Nope, I'm back to picking again. Who'd you pick? What? Give me 1 through 3 or 10 through 12 or 8 through 10, whatever it is. That's why I think the one I did was Sunday. I think I picked 10th to 10. I love it. And Bam Bam, I don't even have to worry. I'm not like, oh, I got to think of a pick. I'll have my guys that I might have to reach for because they're not going to be there.
Yeah, that's why it's tricky.
But that's okay. I'm used. I like doing that. I've done that more than picking 6. I'm like, oh, this is horseshit.
Often you start the trends too when you pick
Yep.
in that spot. Like, oh, here comes the tight ends, or here comes the running. You usually start the trend.
Yeah.
She had no.
Go ahead, Vinny.
No, Dave, it's your show. Go. I'm sorry.
I got I think the defense. That was when I had missed. I don't know who the first or second ranked were, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I just I put the phone like it is here on the stand and ran up quick. Well, it went off, so I wasn't on the draft, and then that's where I showed these guys I had Denver and Buffalo for my defenses. Then I'm like, well, I don't want to draft them back to back. I mean, that's,
Right.
just give me one right now, and we'll figure it out later for another one. Well, I guess I don't have to worry about another defense. So, yeah, you don't want to, fantasy-wise, you don't want to be at the back end of the trend. Even kicker-wise, people, you don't need to worry about a kicker. Well,
Yeah, I usually win 1 or 2 games a year because of my kicker.
Yep.
You get the guys with the big legs too that kick the 40+ because at least in my league you get more points the longer it is. I don't know if it's like that in everyone, but like you get 6 points for a 50-yarder in my league. So Jason Sanders, Justin Tucker, they're like round 10 picks, because they kick long field goals.
And Butker's got volume. So
right.
I think I took Tyler Bass in, I don't know if it was both leagues. And then I think I got Daniel Carlson in the second league that had a lot bigger roster because I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, he was like the third best kicker last year.
Yeah. I'm like, and that offense, that might be a 20-20 offense.
Right. Exactly. That's the ideal thing is you want to be able to move the ball, but not score touchdowns,
So yeah, the fantasy part of the game, I don't know. I've gotten better with it over the years because I'm, again, diehard Chargers fan, but if they win or lose, I don't care. I've said it before, it doesn't affect me like it did 20 years ago. I mean, when they lost, I want to punch people. Now it's like, yeah, I expect it. 20 years of delightful losing, I can deal with it.
And you still want to punch people.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that.
For other reasons, allegedly.
Yes. So, with that, ending on me punching people, shocking.
At least it ain't ending on people itching.
Yes. Itching in crevasses. It is Taco Tuesday. So we have to be mindful of that. Mindfulness, inclusion, all that stuff. I think it was fairly good. We get to have an elongated preview of some teams, and others that didn't deserve it didn't get it. This is neither denied or accepted. This is what it is. This is true, Carlos. So thank you for Vinny for coming on. We'll thank him first for his fountain of knowledge.
Okay, but thank you.
Brad for making the time, thankfully getting schedule switched around. Because I know you'd mentioned maybe in the back half of the show the possibility. And thank you for Steve for coming on.
Really? Wow. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Kindness, politeness, and manners. The IRP. It's going to be our tramp stamp, politeness. So, thank you guys for watching, gals for watching, especially the gals. Hope you enjoyed. Again, if I remember, I'll say it again. Brad and the Brad 8671 channel. Yeah, there you see his name. Go look. He's again in depth on his channel, AFC preview and NFC preview. So go sub to him. That's who you need to sub to. That's a fountain of NFL knowledge that's been around for a long time, and I know once the season starts, that's always when you start going on some tangents. That I'm like, finally, somebody else going off instead of me. It's nice. It's a nice change. So go check those out. I'll try to leave those links in the description box below. And remember, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Crypto wallet, we take those payments. Money order, well-concealed cash, personal check, PayPal, EMT, Venmo, Cash App, manila envelopes full of unmarked bills.
Zelle.
Zelle, yeah, that's the
Venmo.
Trying to think what else. I think that we hit those all. Might have missed one, but if we missed it, it's not worth taking. So follow us on OnlyFans, our MySpace fan page, MSN Messenger, AOL Instant Messenger,
Twitch. I
Twitch.
added that.
Twitch. Yes, you did. Thank you too for Carlos coming on last week. I actually watched the end of the show on replay, so I helped the brand, and its growth, and maybe we'll have some spin-off shows on other channels because generic content from others on other channels is worth watching. I digress. So, with all that being said, Steve, Vinny, Brad, I'm Dave. This has been the Insert Revolution podcast. Remember, cards, they bring us together. Collecting is absolutely awesome. The friendships you forge in this hobby, actual friendships, not appreciating because you made a sale and a purchase, because you actually care about that person. That's what really matters. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Right.